Marvel. I traveled through the Marvel universe and becomes the assistant of Dr. Zola. Chapter 81. At the entrance of the L building, Mary Jane and Peter had already sat in the car, and the three of them were waving goodbye to Leo. Today, Mary Jane's visit and interview to L Technology Company. For Mary Jane, there is an unexpected receipt. Of course, for Leo, this visit and interview has also achieved his original purpose. Moreover, Peter's appearance, and Peter's willingness to be the preacher of the new product launch, was an unexpected surprise for both Mary Jane and Leo. When Mary Jane left, she also told Leo that she would write a report on L Technology before this weekend to help L Technology promote its products in advance. Of course, Leo accepted Mary Jane's kindness calmly. The car started, and Mary Jane took Peter out of the L building. "MJ, it's getting late, let's go to dinner now. After dinner, let's go to New York University for a stroll. At this time, there will always be some small programs in Washington Square, we can miss it." Quote. Mary Jane had nothing to do, and the two went to eat a steak set together. After the meal, Peter paid $70 for the meal and had less than $100 left in his pocket. At this time, Peter remembered what Leo said in the living room, and then he understood what material satisfaction was. This also made Peter really understand how important money is. Even if he can't pay the rent next month, he won't even have a place to live with Mary Jane. You can't go to Mary Jane's every time, can you? The words were divided, and the time went back to when Mary Jane had just driven out of the Air building. "Mr. Irwin, if it's all right, I'll go back to the law firm first." Peter disappeared in the car around the corner of the street, and Matt said goodbye to Leo. "Hey, wait, Matt, don't leave in a hurry. Come with me to the office. I'll ask you something for consultation." Leo first let Heather go back to work, and then led Matt back to the chairman's office. In the office, Leo and Matt sat face to face. Leo said nothing, waiting for Matt to speak. But Matt also remained silent, and simply spent time with Leo. Matt couldn't see anyway, so Leo simply closed his eyes, lay down on the chair and closed his eyes, and wouldn't let Matt go. After 2 minutes, Matt finally took the lead in defeat. He still has to go back and sort out a file, and he is in a hurry to start the court tomorrow morning, but unlike Leo, he can work as many hours as he wants, and he can afford to wait as long as he wants. "Mr. Irwin, didn't you say you have something to ask me for consultation? Why did you fall asleep after I came here with you? You know what I want to ask, you can just say it directly. You are here with me, you don't need to keep any secrets except your own private life, because you can't keep it at all." Leo didn't open his eyes, and if he was bluffing, he opened his mouth. But Matt is still playing sloppy eyes with him. "Are you referring to the fact that I interrupted you just now? Are you angry? If that's the case, I apologize to you. However, the company's rules and regulations are indeed there. I am a law student, and I am a bit rigid. I hope you don't blame me. No, I'm not referring to the fact that you interrupted me, but why you don't want me to finish what I want to say." "Ah, don't these two expressions mean the same thing?" Leo hinted wildly, hoping that Matt would take the initiative to confess. But Matt was still pretending to be confused. Leo pouted and spoke directly to Matt. "I mean Peter Parker. How did you know him? How did you have a holiday with him, and why are you targeting him today?" Matt saw Leo's tough attitude and knew that he couldn't go on with it. He sighed and told Leo the old story between himself and Peter, but kept the embarrassment of his beating back. "Walter, you said Peter Parker was Spider-Man. The man who flies around the streets of Queens, New York all day." Leo pretended not to know anything at all, and even sprayed out the ice water he had just drank in his mouth. Matt shook his head speechlessly, helpless to Leo's pretense. "Mr. Irwin, when you lie, your heart beats abnormally. So, you don't have to pretend, you already know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, right? And you're pretending to be so exaggerated." Leo didn't expect that he was immediately spotted by Matt, and touched his nose in embarrassment. "Yes, I knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, so I gave him an olive branch. In addition, I have to settle for this man, so you will soon be colleagues of the company, and you must be kind when dealing with him in the future." Quote. "But he just messes everything up like he did in Hell's Kitchen, and we don't really need someone like him in the company." Matt also broods about being beaten up by Peter 4 years ago. "Matt, time changes a lot. It's been over 4 years, you're improving, so is Peter, how can you be sure he's still the same?" Besides, you also understand that he didn't have bad intentions back then, and he also wanted to make Hell's Kitchen better in his own way. It's just that the environment he grew up in was not as cruel and harsh as yours, and he didn't understand how this society worked at that time. So, he did something bad with good intentions. Quote, Leo tried to persuade Matt to let go of his grudge against Peter. Actually, you should be clear that you and Peter have no conflict of positions, so cooperation is a win-win situation. If you hadn't kicked him out 4 years ago, but had been more patient and chosen to work together, I'm sure Hell's Kitchen wouldn't be as chaotic as it is now. Quote, but, Matt hesitated to find a reason to explain. But now Hell's Kitchen has me and you, and Bucky boss. We already have the ability to solve the mess in Hell's Kitchen, so why include Spider-Man in it? His sudden joining may disrupt the plan you told me at the time, and it will make the future full of uncertainty. And I prefer to be safe. At least I don't want him hanging around in Hell's Kitchen until the chaos of Hell's Kitchen is really wiped out. Quote, Matt's repeated excuses made Leo feel a little irritable. Coincidentally, Leo intentionally wanted to hit the nearest Matt, lest he get too carried away. Matt, you're a little headstrong. You're not too young now, and you need to become more mature. I founded L-Tech with my own purpose, and I chose to let Peter join because of my own plan. Quote, Leo's voice was slightly cold, slowly and authentically. Like I said before, L-Technology can help make Hell's Kitchen rich and solve the root cause of Hell's Kitchen chaos. But that's just a fringe benefit of L-Tech, and my real purpose isn't to stop there. My affability may have given you the false impression these days that I founded L-Tech to solve Hell's Kitchen troubles. Actually, you were wrong. I can allow you to be friends with me, but I don't want you to interfere with my company-related decisions. Quote, Leo's voice became colder and colder, making Matt suddenly remember when he first met Leo. On the night of his first visit, Leo smashed him to the ground. Moreover, when Leo asked Matt to help register the company, he also used the form of coercion and inducement. It's just that in the past 6 months, Leo came to talk to him too frequently, which gave young Matt the illusion that he was Leo's very good friend. But how does Matt know? It's just because Leo wants to take tasks from him. Matt thought about what he said today, and found that it was really not what an employee should have said, and even Heather felt wrong at the time. I'm sorry, Mr. Irwin. I did something wrong today, and I know I was wrong. One of the things I like about Matt is that he has the courage to admit his mistakes and correct them when he knows them. Leo is not a person who cares about things, and besides, he is not really angry with Matt, just reminding Matt not to do things too much. Matt, what I just said was actually just to remind you. I didn't mean to blame you, you don't need to pay too much attention. In the past 6 months, the company has grown from nothing, and the efforts you have put in are obvious to all. You are the hero of our technology company. So, I will not forget my original agreement with you. Hell's Kitchen will be fine, I promise. Quote, first give a hammer, and then feed a sweet jujube. Leo taught himself without a teacher, and learned the self-cultivation of a leader. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Matt didn't know if it was true or false and said thank you. Please rest assured, Mr. Irwin, that I will never target Mr. Parker again in the future. I just didn't control my emotions today and I'm sorry again for what I did today. Mr. Irwin, if nothing else, I'll go first. Quote, for the first time, Matt felt the tension and suffocation of subordinates facing their bosses since ancient times, and he didn't want to stay in this office anymore. Leo waved his hand, indicating that Matt could go. But when Matt was about to walk out the door, Leo suddenly stopped him. No, Matt, I think you're hiding the truth. You didn't suddenly target him today because you were afraid Peter would bring chaos to Hell's Kitchen again. Now that Leo has enough time and raw materials, he has already perfected the original shoddy brainwashing equipment, and it is not a big problem to forcibly brainwash people. Therefore, Bucky has actually secretly controlled Hell's Kitchen for a long time recently. So Leo went on to ask. The current Hell's Kitchen has been rectified by Bucky, and no gang member dares to touch the brow of Bucky's boss, they are too late to hide. And now that Spider-Man is in Hell's Kitchen, it's only going to make this place more secure, you can't understand that. You must be doing this for some other reason, right? Quote. But Matt ignored Leo and walked out the door with his head buried in it. Leo found that things were not so simple, and quickly chased after him and stopped Matt. You let me think about it, you're targeting Peter today because you hate him. And you see Peter for the first time in more than 4 years, so he must have embarrassed you or even humiliated you before. Quote. With Leo's analysis, a possibility emerges. Matt, shouldn't you were beaten up by Peter 4 years ago. By the way, I saw Peter's expression today. He obviously knew that you were a night demon. Could it be that 4 years ago, you were beaten up by Peter and took off your hood? Quote. Mr. Irwin, I've promised you that I won't bother Peter again. It's over, so be it. Matt probed the way with a guide stick, bypassed Leo, and was about to walk in the direction of the elevator. Leo saw that Matt was already acquiesced, and stood there and asked. Would you like to grab Peter Parker and beat him up? Matt kept walking and said without looking back. It's not like you haven't watched TV. The Spider-Man can stop cars with his bare hands, so I can't beat him with 100. Matt only said that he couldn't fight, not that he didn't want to fight, it showed that he really wanted to beat Peter. As soon as Bucky saw Leo recently, he would mention it to Leo without any problems, and he wanted to train Matt, and urged Leo to help persuade Matt. Leo's ears were about to be called out by Bucky. Well, now is a good time to convince Matt to learn how to fight with Bucky. You can't beat him now, but you can train your fighting skills. Once you surpass him in skills, you can at least punch him in the face. Bucky is the most powerful fighting master I know. If you can learn all his fighting skills, I will organize an exchange match for you and Peter. I think it will be easy for you to deal with Peter Parker. Quote. Matt had already walked to the elevator, fumblingly pressed the downstairs button, but remained silent. Leo persuaded again. Although Bucky is a bit old-fashioned, and talking may embarrass you, as long as you get along with him for a long time, you will find that he is actually a better friend than me. He doesn't have as many hearts and minds, and he doesn't do things with a purpose like me. You can try to get in touch with him more. Quote. The elevator has reached the 6th floor, the elevator door has been opened, and Matt has stepped in with half a foot. Thank you for your reminder, I will think about it seriously. Matt finished speaking and left the elevator. Leo returned to the office, quickly called Bucky, told Bucky the whole story in detail, and finally said. You'd better strike while the iron is hot now and quickly convince Matt, this is the best chance I've given you. Also, don't urge me to help you convince Matt as soon as you meet me in the future, it's annoying. Just sauce, bye. Quote. After the selection of the media and the speaker was finalized, it took only a week for the launch of the new product of the L1 generation high-performance computing chip to be organized. The location of the new product launch conference was selected in Flushing, Queens, New York. This is the business district of New York City. It is very prosperous and much more popular than Hell's Kitchen. However, the rent of the venue is slightly higher, but Leo doesn't care about that. In a large gymnasium in the Flushing Center, the new product launch of L technology is in full swing. Peter Parker was on stage vividly introducing the performance and advantages of the L1 chip. And Leo was sitting quietly at the back of the seating area for the guests, holding a sign in form in his hand, silently scanning the participants. Although the press conference was high profile, Leo tried his best to keep himself low-key. After all, he was still on the list of unknown colors of Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. Although Leo is not afraid of people from Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D., after all, he and Bucky are two very ordinary people. But it's okay to be careful if you can avoid trouble. Not only did he tell Mary Jane long ago not to mention his name when reporting. Moreover, the person in charge of the announcement of L Technology's announcement of this conference was Old Tom, who was firmly controlled by Leo. As I mentioned before, Old Tom wasn't really old, he was in his early 40s. In the past 6 months, he has stayed away from alcohol, worked conscientiously, and matched with a suit and tie, which gave him the appearance of a successful person. But despite all his preparations, Leo wasn't sure he wouldn't be discovered. So, he quietly came to the venue and used his years of experience as a Hydra agent to judge whether someone with ulterior motives had sneaked into the venue. After some inspection, Leo did not find any strangers who looked like agents. However, there are 2 familiar names to Leo on the form. As far as Leo knew, neither of them were invited to L-Tech's new product launch. Leo carefully searched with his eyes in the guest area, and quickly determined the location of the 2 people. It seems that these 2 people are listening carefully, and they have no special intentions. However, these 2 people came uninvited, and Leo still kept his mind. And developed a keen interest in the real purpose of the 2 of them. The new product launch conference continued, and Leo hid in the back of the guest area, secretly observing if there were Hydra or SHIELD agents sneaking in. Suddenly, he saw two uninvited acquaintances at the venue, and he was suddenly surprised. The acquaintance here refers to Leo's unilateral familiarity, which is the familiarity Leo brought from the previous Marvel series. One of them was Otto Octavius, better known as Dr. Octopus. But it doesn't look like Otto has turned black yet. He wears a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, has 2 inches of short hair, and is half bald at the top of his head. A proper image of a scientific researcher, he seems to be an amiable person. Otto was listening carefully to Peter's introduction to the L1 chip parameters on stage, and from time to time he lowered his head to memorize something on his notebook. However, Leo noticed that in the process of taking notes, Otto would stop and rub his hands a few times after a while, as if his fingers were a little inflexible. Another person is Wilson Fisk, the biggest gang leader in New York and even in the United States, nicknamed Kim Bing. Jin Bian is a big black muscle tyrant, and the person sitting with him may be his assistant. From time to time, the two of them bow their heads and talk a few words. But they didn't make trouble, but sat honestly in their seats, so Leo wasn't going to take the initiative to cause trouble. All he had to do was watch silently. The new product launch continued, and it soon came to an end and entered the question and answer session. It can be seen that this new product launch was very successful, and all the participants had a strong interest in the first-generation chip of The potential customers sitting in the guest seating area were memorizing the details of the chip parameters during the process of participating in the conference, and whispered a few words to each other in 2s and 3s. In the question and answer session, they all scrambled to ask one question after another, and most of them expressed their desire to reach a long-term cooperation with L Technology. Leo is not surprised by this. After all, his own products know that the market competitiveness is leveraged. These were clearly shown on the face of Tai Ching, Intel's representative at the conference. Soon, the question and answer session also ended, and the participants gradually dispersed. At this time, Leo saw Peter walking off the stage, went straight to Dr. Octavius, and started talking and laughing. Leo thought for a while, stood up, and leaned over quietly. Dr. Octavius, I didn't expect you to actually be here. I'm really happy to see you come out of the shadows of your research project. Quote. Peter smiled and shook hands with Otto, his concern beyond words. At the same time, Otto really cares about Peter. You mentioned something to me about this press conference 2 days ago, and as my proud student, of course I will come to support you. Peter, congratulations on finding such a good company. Although L Technology is not well known, with the chips released today, it will surely develop into a leading company in the chip industry in the future. Quote. Otto smiled and said slightly relieved. If you can work for this kind of company in the future, I will feel less guilty. You have been my assistant for so long, but in the end I didn't achieve any results, so you wasted your precious time in vain. Quote. No, doctor, don't say that. During the time I did research with you, I felt that I had lived a very fulfilling life and gained a lot. Peter quickly waved his hand and explained. Also, I didn't really join Air Tech. It was just by chance that I was temporarily hired as a publicist for their company. I still prefer to follow you and continue your unfinished research projects. Your research project is very meaningful to the entire human society. You and I both know that every year many people become disabled due to various accidents. And the kind of prosthetic limbs you're working on, which can be controlled using intracranial nerve signals, if successful, could give these people a new lease of life. I'm very happy to be a part of such a great project, and we will definitely succeed in the end. Quote. Peter, we are no longer in this project. Otto sighed, helplessly spread his hands and said. I can't pay you any more without city government funds. Moreover, Norman confiscated many sophisticated instruments and equipment, and our research can no longer be carried out. Quote. Otto looked very decadent, as if life had lost its purpose. Peter couldn't do anything about it, he could only be anxious. After all, he didn't even have the next month's rent yet. And the cash on him is enough to buy 2 coils. At this time, Leo had been eavesdropping for a while, and he also roughly understood the reason why Otto appeared at the press conference. It turned out that he came out to cheer for Peter without any special purpose. However, Leo was slightly disappointed when he heard Peter say that he was not going to continue working for L Technology. However, when his legs are on others, Leo can't force it, he can only go with the flow and slowly think of a way. For example, Peter was reluctant to come to work at Tech, apparently because his mind was still on Dr. Octopus' research project. Leo felt that he could work hard from this aspect, and maybe he could win Peter's favor. It doesn't matter if Peter agrees to join Tech, Leo thinks that he can finally get the spider silk launcher. In addition, Leo vaguely heard from Peter just now that Otto was studying intracranial nerve signal control technology. The name of this technology made Leo very interested. He wanted to know what this technology was and whether it would help him. Moreover, Dr. Octopus itself also has a lot of black technology, and Leo wants to make the black technology that Otto masters now also his own. For example, the mechanical tentacles possessed by Dr. Octopus after blackening are infinitely powerful, and their energy seems to be endless. If Otto in this universe will eventually turn into Dr. Octopus, Leo really wants to know what kind of energy the mechanical tentacles use. If this energy performance is very superior, Leo feels that it can be used in the future design of the armor. Although Leo thought about a lot of things, in fact, only a moment passed. At this time, Otto and Peter were still worried about the withdrawal of scientific research funds. Leo had nothing else, but there was plenty left over from Nick Fury. Now Otto is worrying about funding. If Leo takes the initiative to send money, I believe Otto will not refuse. So, Leo pretended to have just discovered Peter, got close to Peter and Otto, and took the initiative to say hello to Peter. Hey Peter, you did a great job on stage today. You were able to talk and laugh on stage with a calm composure. I really did not see you wrong. Your attitude towards work is really serious. Today's press conference has a good effect. The big guys are going to go back to the company later and have dinner together to celebrate. Do you want to go together? Quote. Leo said that he wanted to have dinner together at night, not just nonsense, but that he had already discussed with several key management members a few days earlier. The company has just started, and the current key management members will be the mainstay of the company in the future, so it is very important to do a good job in team building. Because the meeting was on the way, and people were coming and going, Peter took the initiative to suppress his spider sense. So he didn't realize that Leo had actually been standing not far away for a while, listening to his conversation with Otto. Peter saw Leo and thought he had just come over. At this time, I heard Leo invite him to dinner in the evening, as kind as he treats his employees. Peter felt that since he didn't want to stay in Technology, he might as well make the words clear now, so as not to disappoint Leo's heart. Mr. Irwin, thank you for your compliment. I just tried my best to do what I should do today. Peter smiled humbly and continued. Also, I'm not going to attend the dinner party tonight. And don't be angry, Mr. Irwin, I don't actually plan to work at Irwin in the future. Quote. After Peter finished speaking, he hurriedly explained again. Mr. Irwin, I'm not trying to say anything wrong with Irwin, I just have things I'm interested in to do. In addition, thank you very much for your recognition and appreciation for me these days, but I really can't stay in your company. Quote. Leo laughed at Peter's serious explanation. No one could get angry with this cute and serious look. Besides, Leo had no reason to be angry. After all, Peter did not sign any labor contract with Tech. Peter, you don't want to continue working at Tech, I've known it for a long time. More than a week has passed, and you have not submitted a formal resume and cover letter to the personnel department. I have already been mentally prepared. Quote. Peter scratched his head with an embarrassed smile, expressing his apology again. Leo touched his chin and thought for a while, then said. I just invited you to have dinner together at night, it is my euphemism to want to keep you again. In fact, I am very optimistic about your ability and work style, and I believe that you will be able to achieve something in Technology in the future. However, everyone has their own aspirations. Since you have something you want to do, I will not force you. Quote. Leo took an envelope from his pocket and handed it to Peter. You did a good job today, here's what you deserve. Originally, I was going to give it to you when we had dinner together at night, but since you don't want to go, I'll give it to you now. Here's a total of $2,000, and the extra is the bonus I promised you. Quote. Although Peter wanted to say that the money was too much, he took the envelope with the utmost honesty and put it in his arms. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Irwin. With these $2,000, at least his living expenses and rent for the next 2 or 3 months have been found. Even get a decent present for Mary Jane. Peter, can you introduce me to this gentleman? Otto, who was standing next to him, was left to hang out by Peter and Leo for a long time, and couldn't help but take the initiative to show his presence. Peter only remembered Otto at this time, suddenly reacted, and quickly introduced Otto and Leo. "Drive Octavius, this is Mr. Leo Irwin, and he is the actual person in charge of Irwin Technology. Mr. Irwin, this is Dr. Otto Octavius, one of my university teachers." Quote. Otto took the initiative to say hello to Leo, and then shook hands warmly. Leo unexpectedly found that Otto's palm was a little weak for some reason. "Peter, is this the same university professor that Miss Jane mentioned last time, where you were a research assistant?" "Yes, Professor Octavius is an excellent research scholar, and I have worked with him during my university days." Leo already had a draft in his heart, and at this moment he heard Peter's definite answer and asked directly. "But I heard from Miss Jane last time that there were some problems with the funding of the scientific research project you participated in, Peter, and even the research could not be carried out." Leo didn't wait for Peter to answer, he turned his head to Otto and said with a smile. "Drive Octavius, is that true? Wonder if I can help you." Since Otto saw just now that Leo gave Peter $2,000 unequivocally and distressed, he actually had some thoughts in his mind. Otherwise, he would not have taken the initiative to ask Peter to introduce Leo's identity, nor would he have actively and enthusiastically greeted Leo. You must know that most of the successful scientific research scholars are arrogant and self-improving. They will neither take the initiative to suppress anyone, nor take the initiative to flatter anyone. Otto was also forced to do nothing by the funding problem, and he also had reasons to study this project. At this time, Leo suddenly took the initiative to mention whether he could help, and was in line with Otto's mind. Otto's character made him not reserved. Besides, he was also afraid that if he was a little euphemistic, Leo would go down the slope and not mention help directly. So, Otto said directly, "Mr. Irwin means that he wants to provide me with funds to help me carry out the research project. Thank you very much." Leo was stunned for a moment, and the manuscript he had prepared in his belly was suddenly stillborn. Unexpectedly, Otto's desire for money was so urgent. Leo originally felt that he needed to spend a lot of words to convince Otto to accept his funding. But this also proves from the side how important this project is to Otto. Since Otto took the initiative to ask for Leo's help, Leo felt that it was necessary for him to turn his back on the guest and act appropriately. Because people often take the initiative of others to help as a matter of course, and take the lead for themselves as gratitude. This is also one of the few life philosophies that Leo understood in his previous life. Drive Octavius, you're right, I do have plans in this regard, but I'm more looking at Mr. Peter Parker's face. Leo quietly sent himself a nice card from Peter, and then continued. Also, don't worry, I want to invest in your research project. However, I need to fully understand and examine your project before deciding how much to invest. Note that I said investment, not funding. You know, I'm a businessman, so I need your projects to benefit me. Quote. Leo smiled and comforted Otto, and answered Otto's question ambiguous. Otto calmed down for a while, and then realized that private investment and the scientific research funding support of the municipal government are not the same. Because 100% of private investment is to make money. As a university professor and a scientific researcher, Otto's starting point for the project did not make any money at all, and he could only be authentic. I don't know if my research project can make money. After all, as a scientific researcher, I don't care about the commercial value of the project itself. However, I can describe to you what my research project is doing, and trust Mr. Irwin to judge for yourself. Quote. So, Otto carefully explained to Leo what he was doing. As if applying for scientific research funding, Otto told Leo in an orderly manner, where the starting point of his research project was, how far it has progressed, and what results he expects to achieve. Leo listened carefully, so he could tell that the Dr. Octopus in this world was not the character from the movie he was familiar with. The Dr. Octopus of this world is less arrogant and genuinely treats Peter like a student. In addition, what he is studying is not a tritium nuclear reactor that is difficult to control, but is devoted to researching and making mechanical prostheses that can be freely controlled by human nerve signals. However, Leo has seen various adaptations about Dr. Octopus in his previous life, and the final outcome is that Dr. Octopus will definitely turn black. Therefore, based on the law that Dr. Octopus will definitely be blackened, Leo felt that Otto never told the truth. So, Leo thought for a while and asked. Drive Octavius, I happen to have a good understanding of machinery, why don't you take me to your laboratory for a field visit? In this way, I can also have a more intuitive evaluation and judgment on the commercial value of your research project. Quote. Otto has no choice but to invite Leo directly, and now he can visit the laboratory. It's only nearly noon now, and it's still very early. Leo nodded in agreement, and was about to call Bucky, who was still in the L building, to accompany him to visit Dr. Octavius' laboratory. Calling Bucky, of course, is Leo out of safety considerations. Otherwise, if Dr. Octopus suddenly turned black today, and the 4 mechanical tentacles poked at Leo, Leo would find someone to reason with. Hearing that Leo was going to invest in Dr. Octavius' project, Peter was of course very happy and naturally wanted to accompany Leo to the laboratory together. So, the 3 of them negotiated properly and are ready to go now. However, just as the 3 were about to leave, there were some small disturbances in the west of the venue. It has been a while since the new product launch conference ended, and there are not many people left in the venue at this time. On the west side of the venue is the rest area for the employees of L Technology Company. At this time, Heather and Old Tom and others should be packing the company's things there. The commotion just now came from the west of the venue. Rather, the commotion started when Heather shouted, "What the hell are you trying to do?" A shout drew the attention of everyone still in the venue. Leo, Peter and Otto are no exception. Leo turned his head to look to the west of the venue, and immediately saw a total of 6 people who seemed to be confronting Old Tom and Heather. Old Tom had Heather behind him, and the situation seemed a little grim. Among them, Wilson Fisk's dark bald head is particularly conspicuous. In the crowd, he was the tallest with the brightest scalp, and it was impossible for Leo to see him. Jin KK is a villain who kills without blinking an eye. When he becomes mad, he even kills his own people. Now that Heather seemed to be shouting at him, Leo couldn't help but worry a little, fearing that something might happen to his company's employees. Before he could explain it to Peter and Otto, Leo turned and walked quickly towards the crowd on the west side of the venue. At this time, other people in the venue also began to approach the west of the venue, including Peter and Otto. Before Leo came to him, he saw someone from a distance who seemed to be Jin Bing's younger brother, who was pointing at Old Tom there. This little brother's name is Huduo. When he got closer, he really heard Huduo saying something dirty. "What the hell are you fools, L Technology, our Fisker company can drown you just by spitting on it. Now our boss wants to invest in your company, but you refuse us directly without even a decent leader. What a joke. What kind of onion are you? Can you speak for your company? Also, do you know how strong our company is in New York? And what we do against us is often miserable." Quote. Huduo said with a grim expression on his face, implying a threat. Maybe Huduo said something he shouldn't have said. The butler who was sitting with Jin Piao at the press conference kicked Huduo's leg and glared at him fiercely. However, the housekeeper did not speak aloud, nor did he apologize to Old Tom and others for his rude words. As for Jin Bing, he was standing beside the ground, with no expression on his dark face. After being brainwashed, Old Tom was very loyal to Leo, and he naturally maintained the image and interests of L Technology Company subconsciously. "I'm the logistics director of L Technology, and I'm the direct person in charge of this press conference. Therefore, I can tell you responsibly that L Technology is here to hold a press conference today, and will not accept any consortium or any form of investment. If you want to have any form of cooperation with L Technology, please contact our company according to the method provided in our press conference just now." Quote. Old Tom said something neither humble nor arrogant. Although he was surrounded by 6 people, he was not afraid at all. Not only that, but Old Tom has further defended the dignity of L Technology. Also, it is extremely disrespectful for some of you to insult their company in front of others. Moreover, it is even more shameful to speak ill of a woman. So, this friend named Huduo, please apologize for your words and deeds just now. Quote. Huduo was stunned for a moment, and then his face instantly filled with a grin. While he glanced at Old Tom contemptuously, he snorted again, ignoring the warning from the housekeeper just now, and slammed his fist into Old Tom's face. After all, Old Tom is not too young, and his body was hollowed out by alcohol a few years ago. At this time, facing Huduo's young and strong punch, he couldn't dodge at all. Seeing that Old Tom was about to take a hard punch, Heather behind him couldn't help but let out a scream. Just at this critical moment, Leo rushed over. He quickly reached out and grabbed Huduo's wrist, with a slight force on his arm, pulling it down, and clenching his fingers slightly. Huduo's wrist hurt, and he couldn't help shouting. At the same time, under Leo's pull, he couldn't keep his balance and knelt directly on the ground. Leo glanced at him coldly and said, "Old Tom just said that you were a shameless domestic dog. How come you just can't understand the words of people who are a little more reserved, and you have to let people say it directly to understand?" Quote. Leo raised his arm and threw Huduo's red wrist out. Huduo changed from kneeling to lying on the ground, his left hand covering his right wrist and hissing in pain. "Old Tom, Heather, are you two okay?" Leo stopped looking at Huduo and asked the two employees behind him with concern. Heather didn't even bother to speak, patted her chest with her hands, took a few deep breaths, and looked like she was still in shock. "It's okay, no problem." Old Tom was not timid. "Boss, why are you here? In fact, I can handle these small scenes, Old Tom, without your help." Quote. Although Old Tom's greed for life and fear of death is gone after being brainwashed, his habit of flattering Leo is still there. Seeing that the two of them were not injured, Leo felt a little relieved. At this time, Heather was shocked and speechless, and Old Tom was full of nonsense again. Leo simply ignored the two and turned his attention to Jin Bing. Leo beat Jin Bing's younger brother to the ground, and Jin Bing, who was standing beside him, was not angry. Instead, for some unknown reason, he actually smiled and stretched out his right hand to Leo. "Sir, are you the boss of L Technology? My name is Wilson Fisker and I am chairman of Fisker Enterprises, nice to meet you." Quote. Leo didn't know what medicine Jin Bing was selling in the gourd, but he was not afraid of Jin Bing, and calmly reached out and shook hands with Jin Bing. Leo Irwin, the sole director of Irwin Technology. Leo originally thought that Jin Bing would wrestle with him when shaking hands, possibly preparing to embarrass Leo. But the final result was that this was just an ordinary handshake, and Leo could not even feel the slightest anger and hatred from Jin Ning, who was smiling in front of him. This is actually the most terrifying, and it shows that Jin Bian is hiding too well and too deeply. Leo has read the newspapers about Jin Bing, which are all positive reports about Jin Bing. Successful entrepreneur, great philanthropist, ongoing supporter of municipal projects. These are the images of golden in the minds of the public. Who would have thought that Jin Bing, the underground emperor of New York City and even the whole of the United States, is the muscle pimple with a smile in front of Leo? "Mr. Irwin, I'm so sorry today. My staff got into arguments and even moved their hands because of poor communication with your staff. I am here to apologize for him, and I implore your company and this beautiful lady to forgive him." Quote. Jin Bian said apologetic words with a smile on his face, while Huduo, who was sitting on the ground behind him and rubbing his wrists, suddenly turned pale and trembled for some unknown reason. However, Leo has been thinking about what Jin Bing wants to do, and Jin Bing's figure is really burly, blocking Huduo behind him. Therefore, Leo did not find Huduo's abnormality. Kim didn't wait for Leo to answer, and continued. "I came here today, and after listening to your presentation, I feel that your company's products are very good. But I am afraid that your funds may be short, so I want to ask if you need to invest. However, the communication attitude of my employees is a bit bad, and I have caused some misunderstandings with your employees. I also ask Mr. Irwin not to take offense." Quote. Jin explained to Leo that all this was due to the younger brother making his own claims, poor communication and bad attitude. In fact, Jin Bing was just talking nonsense. His original plan was to forcibly buy the shares of L Technology. Without his instigation, how could his employees dare to act so recklessly? However, Jin Bing just saw that Leo's skills are extremely difficult and his fighting skills are very superb, so he gave up his original plan and prepared to think of other ways. This isn't the first time Kim has heard of L Technologies. Kim noticed the new company in Hell's Kitchen a few months ago. The cause of the incident can be traced back to when Leo asked Old Tom to launder money from his overseas account. And the channel used by Old Tom was set up by Jin Bing's subordinates. At that time, Jin Bing's people mentioned to Jin Bing that a large amount of funds flowed into Hell's Kitchen, and the final flow was verified to be L Technology. But Kim didn't care at the time, because Leo also paid a pro rata fee for money laundering at the time. Although the amount of money that Leo laundered was not small, a rich man like Jin Bing could not break the rules he set for this money. This time, it just so happened that the location of the new product launch conference of L Technology was selected in Flushing, Queens, not far from the Fisker building, the hometown of Jin Bing. Jin Bing was very quiet and thoughtful, so he came here uninvited to join in the fun. But after he saw the products of L Technology, he really began to sit still. Based on the performance of the first-generation chips of L, and the current level of hot demand in the computer market, it is impossible for King to fail to see the brilliant future of L Technology. At that time, the money that L Technology can make will be hundreds of millions or even billions. This money is not a small amount for Jin, and it is clean money that is legally and reasonably earned. As a result, Jin did not have the idea of investing in L Technology. In his opinion, as long as he randomly invests in shares, in the end, he can use thousands of ways to turn L Technology into his own. However, how could Leo be willing to give up his company shares to others? Naturally, it is impossible to agree to Jin Bing's investment. Mr. Fisk, since today's matter is a misunderstanding, let's just forget about it. As for the matter that you want to invest in our company, I am sorry, our company has no financial problems for the time being, so it is not necessary. Quote. Jin didn't force it anymore. He directly agreed with Leo and walked away with his little brothers with a smile. When leaving, Huduo was supported by others, as if he could not walk well. Conflicts come and go quickly. The melon-eating crowd who came over to watch the excitement had no time to pick up the melon, and the melon was gone. It was found that there was no fun to watch, and the crowd who came over dispersed one after another. Except for the employees of L Technology Company, only Peter and Otto were left in place. What happened just now? What happened? Peter spent a few days in L Technology, and was still concerned about the company's affairs. Moreover, he has been working with Heather for a few days, so he is more familiar and the relationship is not bad. So Peter asked again, Heather, are you okay? Leo was here, and Heather also had a backbone. At this time, she had calmed down. She shook her head to indicate that she had nothing to do. Leo also waved his hand to indicate that it was okay, and Peter was relieved. The conflict is resolved, and Leo remembers his desire to invest in Otto again. Coincidentally, when Leo wanted to invest in Otto, Jinbian actually wanted to invest in Leo. But Otto is short of money now, but Leo is not short of money now. Therefore, if Leo's money can be invested, it is indeed impossible for Jin Bing. Leo can actually roughly guess now that Jin didn't want to invest in L Technology's real purpose. But Leo is counting on making his fortune on the first-generation chip of L, to accumulate enough capital first, and then prepare for the troubled times in the future. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible for Leo to let go of the fat in his mouth. Although Jin Bian left like this, Leo felt that he would not give up so easily. Moreover, although Jin Bing is very generous on the surface, he is actually very vengeful in his heart. It seems that in the future, Leo still has to guard against Jin Bing. Leo put aside Jin Bing's affairs first and started to talk with Otto, which is more important than making money. Because having money does not achieve Leo's ultimate goal. If he wants to become stronger, he still has to rely on his own mechanics system and various black technologies in the Marvel world. I'm really sorry, Dr. Octavius, something was delayed a while ago, we can now continue to visit your laboratory. Hope it didn't make you wait too anxious. Quote, I am not in a hurry. But if you have nothing else to do, Mr. Irwin, we can indeed go now. Quote, Otto said he was not in a hurry, but in fact he was in a hurry. Leo is actually looking forward to what kind of black technology the legendary Dr. Octopus will have. So, according to the original plan, Leo drove Peter and Otto to the company together. After connecting with Bucky, they rushed to Otto's laboratory together. The words are divided into two parts. After Jin Bian left the conference venue, he got into his special car and returned to the Fisker building. At this time, he was sitting in the office, smoking a thick cigar, and his face that was full of smiles was already covered with frost. Midori, go and call Huduo over. Midori was the housekeeper who had been with Jin Bing all the time. He listened to Jin Bing's instructions and pushed open the door to leave. A few minutes later, Huduo entered the office tremblingly, but Midori, who followed behind him, did not follow up, but closed the door for Huduo. The door slammed shut, and Huduo couldn't help being startled at the same time. Huduo, come here, take a seat here. Jin took a puff of cigar and pointed to the seat opposite him while puffing. Huduo's reaction was very intense. He didn't dare to sit on the seat, but knelt down directly in front of Jin Bing. He didn't even dare to lift his head, and tremblingly shouted, "Mr. Fisk, please forgive me. What I did today was according to Mr. Nordori's instructions, and I wanted to give technology a blow." Quote, "Did the Noldori let you threaten anyone? Did the Nodori let you do something to someone else? Did the Noldori make you lose my face?" Quote, 3 sentences, one with a higher pitch and one with a harsher tone. After 3 sentences, Jinbai sat on the chair, holding a cigar in one hand, grabbing Huduo's yellow hair in the other, and raised his head. "Huduo, if you get things done with your vicious attitude as usual, I won't blame you. It's a pity that you were unlucky and encountered a tough stubble today. Also because of your bad luck, you are dying now." Quote. Jin took his hand away from Huduo's hair, and then suddenly held Huduo's neck fiercely. At the same time, he stood up again, raising his palms high, and Huduo's feet immediately left the ground. Huduo's face flushed red, his hands desperately clenching Jin Bing's fingers, and his feet kicked and kicked Jin Bing. But Kim didn't keep this position, not moving. After a while, Huduo lost his strength and suffocated to death. Jin Bing again and again with one hand, Huduo's drooping neck made a crackling sound, and the drooping became even harder. In fact, this is the real Gold, cruel, brutal, and sees himself as a high-ranking emperor, holding the power of life and death. The sound of a heavy object hitting the ground sounded, alarming the butler Nodori who was waiting outside the door. Noldori pushed the door open and saw the corpse on the ground as nothing. "Nodori, you will tidy up the house in a moment." Nodori then glanced at the dead Huduo with a look of disgust and disgust. However, Nodori did not immediately deal with the dirty things on the ground, but continued to wait for Jin Bing's orders. Jin also talked for a while and then dealt with it, which proved that he still had something to say. And Nodori would never ask, because the housekeeper who asked about it last time was so tall. Those who follow Jin Bing are actually the ones who really accompany the king like a tiger. Sure enough, after less than 2 minutes, he pondered for a while and said again, "We still want the chip technology of L technology. Since the investment cannot be made, we will not cooperate. You go and call Bullseye back from abroad, let him be in charge of this matter, and get the chip manufacturing technology. Also, remind him that Leo Irwin from L-Tech is not easy, lest he capsize in the gutter." Quote. Inside Otto's laboratory, Leo, Bucky, Otto, and Peter were all present. Bucky doesn't take much interest in what's in the lab, and takes the role of a bodyguard at ease. Otto and Peter are working together to introduce Otto's research project to Leo, hoping that this project will be favored by Leo. But only listening to theories and assumptions is not what Leo wants. What he wants to see the most is the real thing. "Drive Octavius, in the car just now, you said that you have successfully developed a prototype of the first generation. I don't know if I can take it out and let me see it." Quote. "Okay, of course, Mr. Irwin, please." Facing the request of the sponsor, Otto agreed. Otto took Leo into a small cubicle in the laboratory, where there was a workbench, and on the workbench was a mechanical prosthesis that looked like Bucky's robotic arm. The end of the mechanical prosthesis is connected to a lot of thread, and the thread is finally aggregated into a helmet-like device. "Mr. Irwin, this is the first generation model sample I developed, and I call it the Spirit Arm. You can use this neural signal to sense the movements of a helmet from, for example, a robotic arm." Following Otto's introduction, Leo approached the workbench and carefully looked at the spirit arm in front of him. At the same time, the mechanical force in Leo's body surged, and the mechanical force analysis and mechanical force insight skills were activated together. Found the analyzable item, spirit arm, whether to parse it? Yes, Leo silently ordered with his mind, and after only 10 seconds of parsing, he immediately forcibly terminated the process of mechanical force parsing. 10 seconds is enough for Leo to accurately calculate the time it takes for him to successfully analyze the spirit arm. 1 hour 25 minutes 38 seconds. This is the time it takes, and after the analysis, Leo predicts that there will be a great amount of mechanical force in his body. Recalling that when Leo first crossed over, he successfully parsed Bucky's robotic arm, and Leo spent more than 6 months back and forth, intermittently. Now, he successfully parsed a similar item in less than an hour and a half. It can be seen how much Leo's strength has improved since this time. In particular, the acquisition of the specialty of super serum strengthening the body time greatly improved Leo's physical fitness and made his strength a qualitative leap. In addition, in the past 6 months, he has been diligently running the mechanical force refinement method to temper the mechanical force in his body, and his strength has been further improved. Although he may not be Bucky's opponent with his bare hands now, if he wears a light power suit, he is actually worthy of a fight with Bucky. It's just because of energy issues that he doesn't last as long as Bucky. Once there is no energy support, only relying on Leo's own physical fitness to drive the light-loaded power suit, he will be abused by Bucky. But the above is just Leo's own guess, because he has not tried to compare with Bucky. It's not because Leo is cowardly and doesn't dare to compare with Bucky. But Leo's fighting skills came from Bucky. If they fought, Bucky asked in surprise, "Huh, Leo, why is your fighting skills and fighting awareness the same as mine?" How will Leo explain it then? Your physical fitness is improving rapidly every day, you Leo is very gifted, and I will endure it. You can control the movement of metal, the world is full of wonders, I recognize it Bucky. But Leo, you and Meow, haven't been trained by me for a day, but your fighting skills and consciousness are exactly the same as mine. I believe in you, Bucky. Otto was still talking about the design principle and purpose of the spirit arm, but Leo didn't care about it. In fact, Leo was more concerned about energy issues, and he did not see any external energy in the nerve arm. So, Leo asked directly, "Drive Octavius, what energy is this psychic arm powered by?" It is a miniature nuclear fission reaction technology, which uses the conventional heavy nuclear fission material, uranium. But I solved its radiation problems and instantaneous power supply problems and successfully miniaturized the technology. Quote, Otto said it lightly, but this surprised Leo. This achievement is comparable to the future Tony Stark. Leo quickly asked, "Do you have an independent energy module? Can you show it to me? I currently only have a miniature nuclear reactor, which is installed in this robotic arm. After all, heavy nuclear fission materials are not cheap. Moreover, in order to prevent radiation, the entire reactor is sealed, so it is actually quite troublesome to build a miniature nuclear reactor. But I can get the reactor out of the psychic arm because its energy modules are detachable." Quote, "Then take it out and let me see it," Leo repeatedly urged. Otto disassembled the miniature nuclear reactor from the spirit arm and put it in Leo's hands. The miniature nuclear reactor looks like a boxy, heavy hunk of iron. It looks dark and looks very pitiful, and it is more than 108,000 miles worse than the miniature arc reactor that Tony invented in the future. How about its power? The maximum instantaneous power is 30 million joules per second, and the instantaneous output power can be adjusted to avoid energy waste. Well, not only the appearance, but even the power is only 1% of the power of the miniature arc reactor that Tony will use in the future. It seems that Leo still overestimated Otto just now. However, although the performance of this miniature nuclear reactor is far worse than that of the arc reactor, it is far higher than the performance of the miniature high-compression battery. Of course Leo couldn't let such a good thing go. So, the skills of cooperative analysis and mechanical force insight were activated at the same time, and Leo tried to analyze the miniature nuclear reactor in his hand. Dissolvable target, miniature nuclear reactor, is found, whether it is resolved. Confirmed, analysis begins. 10 seconds later, Leo calculated how long it would take him to successfully decipher the miniature nuclear reactor. 7 minutes and 13 seconds. The time it takes to analyze the successful miniature nuclear reactor is so short, which is actually expected by Leo. When he is not at ordinary times, Leo will also use the mechanical force analysis skills to analyze some messy things. From coins and pens to cars and ships. So Leo has long summed up the rules of mechanical force analysis of this skill. It takes more time and consumes more mechanical and mental power to analyze items with higher technical content. The more complex the parsing structure, the more expensive it will be. The cost of parsing the drawing is the least, and the cost of parsing the real object is the greatest. But when analyzing real objects, there is actually a little trick to speed up the analysis, that is, splitting objects with complex structures into parts. In this way, the cost of analyzing each component will be relatively small. Now, The time it takes Leo to analyze the energy source of the nerve arm alone is only about 1/10 of the total time it takes to analyze the nerve arm. This is very reasonable. It doesn't take long to analyze the miniature nuclear reactor. Leo simply said to Otto that he would take some time to study it carefully, and then continued to analyze it silently. How could Otto think that someone could steal skills like Leo and couldn't stop him? In this way, after more than 7 minutes, the technology of the miniature nuclear reactor was stolen by Leo. Successfully analyzed the miniature nuclear reactor, obtained the blueprint, miniature nuclear reactor, and obtained the knowledge of controllable nuclear fission technology and radiation isolation technology. Miniature nuclear reactor drawing obtained by Dr. Octavius's successful miniaturization of nuclear fission technology, non-removable, one-time use. Weight, 5 kilograms. Output power, 0 to 30 million joules per second. Nuclear fissile material, uranium. Total capacity, about 1 trillion joules. Leo roughly estimated that the reactor could run for about 10 hours with full power on. Therefore, after systematic verification, this miniature nuclear reactor is real, and Otto did not open his mouth. However, with such a black technology Otto, how can he worry about money? Shouldn't he be rich by now? Leo felt that there must be a problem here, but he did not rush to mention it first, and then he first learned more about the technology of the neural arm. So, after learning the diagram of the miniature nuclear reactor, Leo calmly returned the iron block weighing 10 pounds to Otto. It's a good energy source, and I like it very much. Leo complimented casually, and then turned to ask another technology he was concerned about. Drive Octavius, you said just now that this psychic arm is controlled by intracranial nerve signals, and its reaction speed is even faster than that of an intact human arm. Can you give me a demonstration? Quote, in the laboratory, Otto raised the helmet covered with thread with both hands and put it on his head. Before launching the whole set, Otto explained. This intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet consists of a signal collector and a signal processing chip. According to my research, this technology should be very complete in theory. But for some unknown reason, in the actual operation process, after the neural signal is stably transmitted for a short time, it will always be obstructed by unknown obstacles, and the action you want to complete will be deformed or even directly failed. Quote. After speaking, Otto started the whole set of equipment with a serious look. Next, something magical happened. The robotic arm on the workbench began to move flexibly. It quickly completed 3 times of rock paper scissors, and then danced a finger dance. After a minute or so of finger dancing, Otto suddenly shouted. Look, I feel that the nerve signal transmission has started to become unstable. As soon as the voice fell, when the robotic arm danced its fingers, the movement had begun to distort. Finger dancing requires more complex signal processing, and after a while, the movement is simply not complete. Otto simply ended the finger dance and controlled the robotic arm to pick up a mug on the workbench. However, the robotic arm, which was originally very flexible, was very difficult to even hold a mug at this time. The robotic arm held the handle of the mug and began to tremble more and more. With a crisp sound, the mug with the logo of New York University slipped from the fingers of the robotic arm, fell to the ground, and shattered into pieces. At this moment, Otto had a disappointed look on his face, and then raised his hand to press a button beside his neck. But the first time I pressed it off, and the second time I pressed it. As the button is pressed, the helmet automatically falls off immediately. Otto staggered forward 2 steps at his feet, and was skillfully supported by Peter standing beside him. Peter, I'm fine, I'm fine. After only a moment, Otto returned to normal, and shook his head regretfully. Sure enough, the experiment failed again. Drive Octavius, the moment you took off your helmet just now, why did you suddenly stand unsteady? Does this helmet consume a lot of mental or physical energy when using it? Quote. Leo's observation was keen, and he noticed Otto's anomaly just now. That's another question that I can't understand. Otto rubbed his forehead, a little irritable. When wearing a helmet, it doesn't consume a lot of energy, let alone physical strength. With the helmet on all the time, I felt everything was normal, and for a while after I took it off, I also felt very good. It's only at the moment when I take it off that I feel a little dizzy. But I don't understand why this is for the time being, and I don't know how to solve it for the time being. These all take time to continue to study, but my experiment has been stopped for more than a week. Otto scratched his bald brain irritably, as if remembering the previous troubles, and stomped his feet hard. Relax, Dr. Octavius, relax. Peter persuaded Otto beside him. Mr. Irwin is here, he can provide us with funding, and our research projects can certainly continue. Peter is both persuading Otto and implicitly reminding Otto to pay attention to his image, so as not to arouse Leo's disgust. Only then did Otto react, and he smiled awkwardly at Leo. Leo didn't mind Otto's madness just now. Because there is a saying, well, if you don't go crazy, you can't live. Leo is more concerned about this intracranial nerve signal sensing system. He remembered that he had seen many versions of Dr. Octopus in his previous life. Most of the reasons why Dr. Octopus turned black were because he was controlled by tentacles. According to the abnormal phenomenon that occurred during Otto's demonstration just now, Leo felt that there must be a problem with this neural signal transmission helmet, and it might really affect the user's brain function. But Leo doesn't believe that this signal transmission helmet will have its own mind, because it is really too difficult to give life to machinery. Leo didn't believe Otto could do that. Therefore, Leo wanted to analyze the helmet separately to see if the system could analyze the real reason. However, the mechanics system is not smart enough. If Leo wants to analyze the helmet separately, he must separate the helmet at the physical level. So Leo asked, "Drive Octavius, do you mind if I remove this psychic transmission helmet and examine it separately?" "Don't mind, you can do whatever you want." Although Otto didn't know what Leo wanted to check, he didn't stop it. The big deal is that the helmet is damaged by Leo, he will just take some time to repair it. He didn't control his emotions just now, for fear that he would leave a bad impression on Leo, so of course he had to coax Leo. So, Leo unplugged the messy thread on the helmet, isolated the helmet, and then used the instrument on the workbench to pretend to test the helmet. But secretly, Leo used the mechanical force analysis and mechanical force insight skills on the helmet at the same time. In the special mechanical field of vision, the helmet flashed a wonderful light, as if the nerve synapses were transmitting signals. Discovered the analyzable target, intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet, whether to start parsing. Confirmed, start parsing. After 10 seconds, Leo calculated how long it would take to successfully parse the helmet. 45 minutes and 36 seconds. The total time it took to parse the helmet actually accounted for more than half of the total time it took to parse the entire neural arm. It seems that this intracranial nerve signal sensing system is the core technology of the nerve arm. Now Leo is even more curious about this technology. So, he was cheeky and silently checked the helmet for more than 40 minutes, until the system prompt of "parsed successfully" popped up. Otto is very familiar with the laboratory equipment, and he has long seen that Leo's so-called inspection is doing nothing. And Peter saw it too. But the two of them didn't break it, and let Leo mess around there, as long as the gold owner was happy. And Bucky, who was even more bored, didn't even know where he found a deck of playing cards in the laboratory, and played poker games of his era with Otto and Peter. At the beginning, Peter and Otto also rejected Bucky, but when they saw Leo, who was addicted to the test and couldn't extricate himself, they didn't know how long it would take to end the useless test, so they agreed to play with Bucky, up the game. Not to mention, the three of them had a lot of fun. When Leo finished analyzing the helmet, the sound of the three of them either laughing or complaining filled the entire laboratory. Leo pouted, regardless of the three people next to him who had become very playful, and quickly checked the system prompt. The analysis is successful. You have obtained the drawings, intracranial nerve signal transmission helmet, intracranial nerve signal processing chip, intracranial nerve signal acquisition module, and you have acquired the knowledge, intracranial nerve sensing technology. Intracranial nerve signal transmission helmet. The high-tech helmet researched and produced by Dr. Octavius can collect intracranial nerve signals and translate them into compliable electrical signals. The signal transmission time is less than 1 nanosecond and the speed is extremely fast, but prolonged use can cause cognitive disorders in the nervous system. Note 1. Long-term use of this technology will cause extremely strong negative effects. Various potential negative effects and possibilities are as follows. Irritability 100%. Feeling out of control 60%. Epilepsy 18.7%. Short-term memory loss 20.4%. Long-term memory loss 31.3%. Degeneration of limbs 55.3%. Note 2. Beginner mental resistance feats can offset 30% of the negative effects, intermediate mental resistance feats can offset 70% of the negative effects. Advanced mental resistance feats and above are completely immune to all negative effects. Note 3. The stronger the mental power, the easier it is to find potential problems with the transmission helmet. After careful consideration, Leo felt that the intracranial nerve sensing technology was the perfect fit for Leo, a mechanic. With this technology, many of his bold ideas have the possibility to change from fantasy to realization. For example, with the miniature nuclear reactor and intracranial nerve signal sensing technology, the battle armor similar to the Mark series, which he had previously been difficult to achieve, finally has the possibility of realization. It can be said that this drawing directly sent Leo from the mortal world to heaven. However, the large row of negative effects in Note 1 of the drawing scares Leo enough. Under the bonus of such a large number of negative effects, who can stop it? When Leo first saw the system prompt Note 1, his mood was like a drastic change from heaven to hell. However, Note 2 saves Leo again, who happens to have an advanced mind resistance feat, advanced mind resistance. Thank you, Sister Widow, for bringing Leo out of hell again. A drawing of an intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet made Leo feel like a roller coaster, going up and down. Fortunately, in the end, Leo was on top. So, it's totally worth it to take some slight twists and turns mentally. After successfully analyzing the intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet, Leo finally understood why Otto's research project failed to succeed. As Otto said before, the intracranial nerve signal sensing technology has been developed by him very mature in theory, and it is no longer possible to make breakthroughs in the technical level. Otto couldn't succeed, not because he wasn't smart enough, but because the technology itself was flawed. In fact, this cannot be said to be a defect, or a threshold for use. Leo remembers that Dr. Zola said before that the brain is the most amazing thing in the human body, and it is even closely related to the human soul. The intracranial nerve signal sensing technology has actually involved the deep field of brain function. Ordinary people's brains need to rest when they control their body movements for about 10 hours a day. Even a huge stimulus from the body can forcibly change the behavior and health of the brain. So, how can the ordinary human brain be used to control external devices? In other words, once the external device interacts with the neural signal of the human brain, how much will it affect the human brain? Therefore, this technology cannot be used by ordinary people, and its use threshold is very high. As for how high it is, the system has already given the answer. Without the mental resistance expertise above the advanced level, this technology cannot be used without cost. There is no doubt that Otto did not meet the threshold of harmless use of the technology. Therefore, when he uses the helmet, the moment he takes off the helmet, he will be in a trance. This is the huge cognitive contrast caused by the instantaneous change of the brain's working mode. In addition, after Otto uses the helmet for a while, the transmission of nerve signals will be blocked, which is actually a self-protection measure of his brain. The brain subconsciously felt that using the helmet, there would be a risk of huge damage, so the rejection signal continued to be transmitted through the helmet. But this protection is limited. As long as the helmet is worn for a while, this protection mechanism will be automatically broken through. At that time, the transmission of nerve signals will become stable again, but under the influence of various debuffs, the negative effects will become irreversible. Leo, who understood everything, looked up at Otto, who was still playing cards with Bucky and Peter on the table not far away, shook his head slightly, and sighed. Without Leo's presence, according to the current situation analysis, Leo feels that in the near future, Otto will continue to use intracranial nerve signal sensing technology 100%. And then under the influence of various debuffs, he turned into Dr. Octopus. Now, although Leo suddenly stepped in, Leo felt that it should not change the ending of Dr. Octopus blackening. Because, after thinking for a while, Leo decided not to invest in Otto's research project. It's not because Leo turned his face and didn't recognize anyone after he secretly obtained 2 key technologies. But because of Otto's research project, there is no commercial value at all. First, the robotic prosthetics in Project Otto are not equipped with cheap, efficient energy. It's impossible for every prosthesis to be equipped with a miniature nuclear reactor, right? Furthermore, ordinary people simply cannot use intracranial nerve signal sensing technology. Therefore, Otto's research project simply cannot create a high-tech mechanical prosthesis that can be commercially used on a large scale. Leo invested in Otto's project and will definitely lose everything. How could he do such a loss-making business? However, Leo had to find a reasonable reason to reject Otto and Peter. And Otto and Peter are smart people, not easy to fool at all. Therefore, this reason must be true and must be sufficiently convincing. Then, just tell the truth. But to tell the truth, it also requires skill, and it is absolutely impossible to find out that the helmet will have such a big side effect based on Leo's pretentious inspection just now. Leo knew it, and of course Otto and Peter knew it all too well. Therefore, Leo felt that he had to pretend to test the nerve arm himself, to give himself what he was going to say, and to find an excuse for the past. Hey, Dr. Octavius, Peter, Bucky. You three stop playing poker, I have something to say. The three of them played poker because they were bored, and they didn't have any addictions. So they put down the playing cards in their hands and approached Leo to see what Leo had to say. I just double-checked this helmet. Leo deliberately lengthened the tone, aroused the curiosity of the three, and continued. In the end I found nothing. What did the three of them show? Black question mark face. I didn't mean to tease you, it was just a foreshadowing of what I said. Leo shrugged, expressing his innocence, then raised the helmet in his hand. I actually want to put this thing on my head and experience it myself. Dr. Octavius, can you teach me how to operate it? Naturally, Otto and Peter would not refuse, because they had no idea that intracranial nerve signal sensing technology could cause brain damage. Otto and Peter carefully reattached the helmet back to the robotic arm, and then performed an integrity check. After the verification passed, Otto helped Leo put on the helmet and told Leo how to operate. Before starting, Otto also reminded Leo that if he feels any discomfort, he must take off his helmet immediately. Leo flipped the switch on the whole set of equipment, and the neural arm worked. A magical feeling instantly filled Leo's body and mind in a real sense. He felt as if he had an extra arm, which was no different from his real arm, even more flexible than his own. This feeling is very strange. If I had to use one word to describe it, it would be a blend of water and milk. At the same time, the system prompt is also refreshed. Warning, your brain is affected by special electrical signals that may cause the following negative effects. Advanced mind resistance specialty has been triggered, and you are immune to all possible negative effects. Leo manipulated his nerve arm freely for nearly a minute, and then took off his helmet voluntarily. After all, if the time is longer, Otto should see that Leo's intracranial nerve signal transmission has not been hindered. Leo also staggered 2 steps in a pretentious manner, and was skillfully supported by Peter next to him. Leo smiled and thanked Peter, then sat down on the chair next to him, pretending to be thinking seriously. Seeing Leo's expression, Otto and Peter knew whether they could get Leo's investment. It was the most critical moment, and they were waiting nervously. After a long time, Leo spoke. Drive Octavius, I don't quite understand some questions, I want to ask you, I hope you can answer truthfully. Chapter 91. Seeing that Leo had a question to ask himself, Otto naturally took it seriously. He asked Peter to move a few chairs, and the 4 of them sat together. The laboratory conditions are rudimentary, and Otto can only do so. Mr. Irwin, what do you want to ask? Leo pointed to the nerve arm on the workbench and asked. I want to ask, since you already have miniaturized nuclear reactor technology, it stands to reason that you can't be short of money like this. Don't tell me you have absolutely no idea of the commercial value of miniature nuclear reactors, that's absolutely impossible. You must understand what I really want to ask, can you please explain it to me? Quote. After Leo confirmed the authenticity of the micronuclear reactor technology, this question naturally appeared in his mind. At this point he finally asked, expecting Otto to explain it to him. After asking the question, Leo glanced at Peter calmly. But there was no surprised expression on Peter's face, apparently he knew why. This time, Leo was even more surprised. With the ingenuity of Peter and Otto, neither of them could think of a way to profit from the miniature nuclear reactor. It seems that there is a big problem behind this miniature nuclear reactor. Hearing Leo's question, the expression on Otto's face was very complicated, with memories, anger, and more helplessness. Peter, I get excited when I mention this. You should explain it to Mr. Irwin. Oh, good, good. Peter was about to listen to Otto's story again. After all, Otto told the story in pieces last time, but suddenly he was assigned a job and was a little unresponsive. Peter recalled the stories Otto had told before, sorted out his thoughts, and asked, "Mr. Irwin, do you know Norman Osborn? Are you talking about the mayor of New York City who just took office, the chairman of the Ostrich Corporation? If it is him, of course I know." Not only does Leo know Norman Osborn, who is often on TV and newspapers in this world, but he also knows various versions of the Green Goblin in previous lives. However, Leo felt that in this world, Norman might really be an ordinary person, at most a powerful ordinary person. Because, having been in New York for so long, Leo had never heard the slightest report of a Green Goblin-like attack. Moreover, in this world, there are various organizations and forces that are studying human enhancement technology. But even the brilliant Howard Stark was unsuccessful in restoring the super serum formula. He even lost his life in the end. So, how did Norman Osborn succeed in developing a human-boosting agent? Leo's thinking has diverged a bit, but Peter continues to organize the language, trying to explain clearly from beginning to end, about the miniature nuclear reactor. Drive Octavius has said before that he and Osborn were in the same lab at university and were experimental partners and good friends, known as the Osborn brothers. Later, they decided to start a business together. Wait a minute, do you mean that Oscorp was actually founded by Dr. Octavius and Obens? When Leo heard something that surprised him, he couldn't help interrupting Peter, and added another word. Yes, of course. This is also the reason why Oz Enterprise is called Oz Enterprise. It's just that the word, brother, in the laboratory has been replaced by Enterprise. It took Leo a few seconds to accept the fact, and then he coughed. Asked, "But what does that have to do with miniature nuclear reactors?" "Mr. Irwin, don't worry, I'll talk about this soon." Seeing that Leo was a little anxious, Peter rationalized his thoughts, and just picked up some important things and went on. While working together within Austin, Dr. Octavius and Osborn developed a prototype of this miniature nuclear reactor. But the radiation problem has not been solved, so this miniature nuclear reactor technology has been shelved for a long time. Later, Dr. Octavius left Ostrich, and he succeeded in perfecting the technology of miniature nuclear reactor and solving the radiation problem. However, the two had previously signed an agreement on the ownership of the miniature nuclear reactor, and legally the technology should belong to both Doctor and Osborn. The Doctor and Osborn are now at odds, so the Doctor can't make money from it. Even, the Doctor has to find other energy sources to replace the miniature nuclear reactor as the energy source of the nerve arm. Quote. After speaking, Peter stopped. This is the end. At this time, a black question mark appeared on Leo's face. Why did Otto leave Ostrich? Why is Otto at odds with Osborn? The fire of gossip was burning in Leo's heart. Yes, that's the whole reason. Actually, there are a lot of stories here, but it seems that Mr. Irwin is in a bit of a hurry, so. Peter spread his hands innocently. But in any case, Leo's original question was barely answered. Although the fire of gossip was successfully attracted, it was also asked by Leo, and he had nothing to say. Who made Leo uneasy and quiet to be a listener? Been there all the time. However, there is still Dr. Octavius here, and Leo is embarrassed to ask Peter for details. But he felt that he could find a way to get some details from Otto's mouth. So, Leo said to Otto, who looked calm on his face, but actually clenched his fists. Drive Octavius, I actually think you really have the option to work with Osborn again. With this miniature nuclear reactor technology, you and he are sure to make a lot of money. And you just happen to be short of research funds, there is really no need to struggle with money, and your thinking should be more flexible. Quote. Leo is using language skills to test. Peter's description just now hinted that the contradiction between Otto and Osborn must be deep. In fact, this is not difficult to infer from the huge contrast between Otto's penniless and Osborn's wealth. After all, it was the Osborn Corporation jointly created by the two of them. If Otto hadn't been beaten by Osborn, how could he have been so miserable? Leo's trick is called poking his sore spot. Actively detonate the explosive barrel. Sure enough, Otto, who has been using the intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet for testing for a long time, is now particularly prone to losing control of his emotions. After listening to Leo's advice, he suddenly said hysterically, "Let me work with him again. No way, absolutely impossible. He is a complete liar, not only with a very small heart, but also with a very bad heart." Can you imagine? When Osborn was just founded, Osborne actually moved his hands on the equity contract. After the establishment of Osmanthus, he became more and more obsessed with genetic research, and he invited me to do research with him many times, and he even did a lot of unethical experiments in private. I naturally rejected him. After all, my research interest and direction are not genetics at all. But he actually held a grudge for it, took advantage of the loophole in the original equity contract, gave me a small amount of money, and swept me out of the house. But that money didn't last long for my research, and then I relied on applying for government grants for scientific research. Fortunately, the projects I have studied in the past are not bad. However, the hateful Osborne is not willing to let me go. After he became mayor, he used conspiracy to cancel my supplementary fund. He was trying to drive me to a dead end. Quote, Otto slammed the workbench next to it, and then said, You say, I might work with him again. Even if he makes a lot of money, will he give me a penny of the money he makes? He won't, he'll just play tricks again and take the technology of the miniature nuclear reactor as his own. I, Otto, will starve to death for the rest of my life. Even if I rot the technology of micronuclear reactors in my stomach, I will never have any more cooperation with Osborne. Quote, talking about his past with Osborne, Otto was very excited and angrily pointed out various evil deeds of Osborne in the past. Leo didn't expect that because of his gossip heart, he would lead to such an explosive news. Almost so violent that Otto lost control. So, Leo quickly comforted. Dr. Octavius, please calm down. I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have suggested that you cooperate with Osborne again. I just thought about it from a businessman's mind. I didn't know that the festival between you and Osborne was so deep, and I didn't know that Osborne was such a person behind his back. Quote, in order to make Otto feel better, Leo began to fight for Otto. I never thought that such a person could become the mayor of New York City. This is the greatest misfortune of New Yorkers. Otto really felt a lot better, and he said very contemptuously, with Osborne alone, how could he possibly be mayor? Over the years, because of disputes over interests, he actually had conflicts and festivals with many politicians in New York City. How could they support Osborne to come to power? Quote, Peter didn't even expect that he could hear so much exciting news today. He became curious and hurriedly asked, then how did he end up being mayor? Of course it was because of collusion of interests. He offended some people and naturally colluded with some people. But what he colluded with turned out to be the underground forces in New York City, the gangsters, to put it bluntly. Quote, Otto snorted coldly, expressing that he was very ashamed of what Osborne had done. It is said that there is a man who controls the underground forces in New York City and even the whole of the United States. Not only that, but I have heard that he can even influence decisions within the government. And Osborne colluded with that man. Now that Orbans has successfully run for mayor, it seems that these legends are true. Quote, Otto's expression gradually became serious, and he whispered, that person's name is Jin Bing, which means the emperor of the underground kingdom. Maybe you haven't heard of this name, but then. Drive Octavius, I've heard that name. Peter interrupted Otto suddenly, raising his hand to speak. Bucky has always been very interested in Kim and, playing poker in his hand, he said. Actually, I've heard this name before, but I just didn't know who he was. Otto was suddenly embarrassed, not knowing how to continue. In the end, he turned to Leo for help, hoping that Leo would follow his words and say that he did not know Jin Bing. I know this man too. Leo shrugged. Osborne and Kim were connected as early as Leo expected. But, Dr. Octavius, none of that matters. What matters is what you want to express. You mean, Osborne actually colluded with Kim, right? Quote, yes, exactly. Otto breathed a sigh of relief and continued. What I'm trying to say is that Norman Osborne is definitely not a good man, and his being mayor is indeed the greatest misfortune of the people of New York. Okay, Dr. Octavius, I see what you mean. Osborne is indeed a badass. Leo felt that the topic was a little off, and tried to correct the topic. However, what you said just now has nothing to do with what we are going to discuss now. Let's forget about Orbans and put our attention back to this lab, to the neural arm research project. Quote, at first glance, Leo said now that he has no interest in the neural arm project at all, and then slaps his butt and walks away, which is the biggest winner. After all, he has obtained the miniature nuclear reactor and intracranial nerve signal sensing technology through the mechanics system. But it's not, because if he did, Leo might have two more potential enemies for no reason. Leo has these two technologies and will definitely find a way to use them so that they may be discovered by Peter and Otto. At that time, Leo became a liar and thief in Otto's mouth, and his status in Otto's heart became the same level as Norman Osborn. In that way, after Dr. Octopus is blackened, Leo may face the danger of being poked by tentacles. The most important thing is that Leo may have a bad relationship with Peter because of this, and if he is not careful, Leo will even capsize in the gutter. Of course, the possibility of the above things happening is actually not high. After all, these two technologies can do some disguise, making it difficult for people to discover. However, Leo felt that there were actually more secure ways to avoid these troubles. Drive Octavius, Peter, I have some preliminary thoughts on the neural arm project, and now I will tell you about it. Otto and Peter really turned their attention away from Osborn and Kim and focused on the neural arm research project itself, and they were all ready and listening. I'm going to spend $2 million to buy the miniature nuclear reactor technology at one time. What do you think, Doctor? Seeing Otto hesitate, Leo urged. Drive Octavius, what are you still hesitating about? Don't you want to give Norman Osborn some money? Or, do you think the price is low? But this is the most reasonable price I have given after careful consideration. This technology is placed here with you, and you can only get dust and ashes. Give it to me, and you can get a large amount of research funding at one time. Of course, if you don't want to sell this technology, forget it, the final decision is still in your hands, Drive. If Otto is unwilling to sell this technology to Leo in the end, Leo doesn't care. Anyway, Leo has mastered the blueprint of the miniature nuclear reactor. He spent money to buy the technology from Otto, just to be safe and avoid trouble. Even if Otto does not sell it to Leo, Leo will still use this technology, but when using it, Leo needs to do some camouflage and pay attention to avoid being discovered by Peter. Of course I don't want to give Norman any money to that fool, and I don't think you're underbid, Mr. Irwin. Otto has been persuaded by Leo, but he also has other concerns. Mr. Irwin, if I sell you this technology, can I still build and use miniature nuclear reactors in the future? Of course, of course. As long as you don't use the technology for profit, you are free to use it privately. Otto, who is not blackened, is too honest, no wonder he was so miserable by Osborn. Thank you so much, Mr. Irwin. As long as I can use this technology privately in the future, I am willing to sell this technology to you. Quote. Otto's request was satisfied, he laughed happily, and tentatively made another request. Of course, it would be nice if Mr. Irwin was willing to pay a little more. Leo felt that he had to take back his evaluation of Otto just now. Otto has been dishonest, and he has learned to measure up. But Leo actually made a lot of money long ago, how could the micronuclear reactor technology be worth only $2 million? So, Leo said, okay, I can bid $2.5 million. But that's the highest price I can make, and I can't add more. Otto didn't expect that a word he mustered up the courage to say would actually get an extra $500,000 for nothing. He was overjoyed and quickly said, Mr. Irwin, it's a real pleasure to work with you. Leo is also very happy because he actually earns more. Besides, $2.5 million is just the value of a Hydra base, which is a small amount of money for Leo now, not worth mentioning. I don't know if Sienna knows Leo's thoughts, will she be so angry? Peter was actually very happy to see that Leo directly bought the microreactor technology with $2.5 million. Peter, a good boy who has never experienced cruel business competition and has no urgent desire for money, feels that since Leo is so rich and generous, he will definitely not be stingy with his investment in the neural arm project. So he asked, Mr. Irwin, what about the neural arm project? How much are you going to invest? In fact, I can't blame Peter, I will take it for granted that Leo will definitely invest in the neural arm project. Because in Peter's concept, the neural arm project is a project that benefits people with disabilities around the world and is doing a great thing. Peter has been working on this project for a while now, and this project is very important to him. The motivation behind him doing this is just because it's a great thing. Otherwise, how could he unconditionally support Otto's research without getting paid? However, Leo was destined to disappoint the selfless Peter. Peter, I'm sorry, I looked at the neural arm project and didn't think it had any commercial value. So, sorry, I can't invest in this project, it will cost me all my money. Quote. Apart from caring about the safety of his family and friends, Peter can be said to have almost no selfishness. And, because Peter didn't know that intracranial nerve signal sensing technology had fatal flaws. Therefore, in his view, the neural arm project can actually make money. Therefore, Peter did not understand why Mr. Irwin, who has always been very generous, was reluctant to invest in the neural arm project. So Peter asked suspiciously, why, this project has no commercial value. Really, Peter, I won't lie to you. I'm not a philanthropist, I'm a businessman, and I have a big company to take care of, and everyone in the company needs to eat and spend everywhere. So, I can't do this loss-making business. Also, Peter, I don't recommend that you continue to spend your precious time and energy on this project, which is really hard to succeed. Quote. Such subjective reasons naturally cannot convince Peter. He has put a lot of effort into this project. To convince him to give up this project, he needs more solid evidence from Leo. Leo certainly knew this, so he explained patiently. When I say that this project has no commercial value, it is not empty words. The motives for this project are good and right, and the envisaged project goals are amazing. But just because the project goal is too amazing, this project has two fatal shortcomings, both of which are reducing the commercial value of the project. Quote. Peter's attention was attracted by Leo's words, and even Otto raised his ears unconsciously, obviously wanting to hear what Leo had to say. The first drawback, so far, the neural arm has not been designed with a suitable energy source. According to Dr. Octavius' original project goals, the neural arm needed to be able to perform very complex movements with speed and precision. This requires that there must be enough powerful energy to support the nerve arm to complete these actions. But for now, I can't think of any cheap portable energy sources that fit that bill. We can't equip every nerve arm with a miniature nuclear reactor, so the cost of each nerve arm will be very expensive, and it will not be mass-produced at all, and few people can afford it. Products that cannot be mass-produced have no commercial value to me at all. Quote. Both Peter and Otto nodded subconsciously, thinking that what Leo said made sense. The second disadvantage is even more deadly. Leo walked to the workbench, picked up the sensor helmet, and said, there is something wrong with this helmet, there is a big problem. If ordinary people use this helmet for a long time, their personality will change greatly, and at worst, they will have amnesia and dementia. This time, Peter and Otto disagreed with Leo's point of view. Especially Otto. He felt that Leo was questioning his research results, and said a little angrily, Mr. Irwin, the correctness of what you said is debatable, and even a little blunt. I've done many lab tests with this helmet, how come I don't feel anything out of the ordinary? Quote. Is there really nothing unusual? Leo put the sensing helmet in his hand back on the workbench and said faintly, you might as well think about it carefully. Are you more easily out of control now than before? You are prone to anger, resentment, and even want to fight and kill. In fact, your character has begun to be sensed by the helmet. To be precise, it was influenced by your invention of intracranial nerve signal sensing technology. Quote. That's all because I've been through a lot of trouble lately. All because of that fool Norman Osborn. Quote. Otto did realize that his emotions were easily out of control recently, but he did not think it was caused by the sensor helmet. As long as I think of that fool, I think of all the injustices and grievances I've suffered in the past and now, and it's easy to get angry. This has nothing to do with sensor helmets. Quote. Peter, apparently more inclined to believe Otto's statement, interjected. Mr. Irwin, your reasoning just now was too far-fetched. Just based on your subjective guess, not only Dr. Octavius, but even I can't believe your statement. How on earth did you find out that the sensor helmet was so flawed? Do you have any objective evidence? Quote. Facing Otto and Peter's questioning at the same time, Leo did not panic and remained calm. Peter, have you never used this intracranial nerve signal sensing helmet? Leo suddenly asked Peter, then picked up the helmet and handed it to Peter. Then why don't you put it on your head and experience it yourself? Once you experience it, you should understand why I came to the conclusion that there is a problem with the sensor helmet. For various reasons, Peter did not personally use the sensor helmet, and Otto did the experiment himself with the helmet in each test. Leo knew from the annotations on the sensing helmet drawings that the stronger the mental power, the easier it is to discover the fatal problems of the sensing helmet. Peter's mental power is naturally not weak, and at least he will have a mental resistance specialty above the primary level. Therefore, Leo felt that if Peter personally used this sensor helmet, he should be able to feel something wrong from the sensor helmet. Seeing is believing. As long as Peter discovered this himself, I believe he would naturally agree with Leo's statement. Peter put the sensor helmet on his head suspiciously, and then experienced a wonderful feeling like water and milk blending. Peter experienced this feeling for the first time and was so engrossed in it that he couldn't even speak. At the same time, under his command, the nerve arm was rapidly doing various movements with incredible precision. Moreover, after a full 5 minutes, there was no distortion in the movements, and it was obvious that the transmission of nerve signals was still very stable. After another minute or so, suddenly, Peter slammed the button beside his neck, and the sensor helmet automatically fell off and hung on Peter's neck. Woohoo! Peter didn't know what was going on. He bent down and panted heavily, and even retched twice. Otto quickly supported Peter, patted Peter's back lightly, tried to make Peter more comfortable, and asked with concern. Peter, are you okay? What happened? Ha. There's something really wrong with this sensing helmet. Quote. Peter took the helmet off his neck and threw it on the workbench, his face full of disbelief. When I first put it on, I felt everything was normal, even better than usual. But after a while, all sorts of bold ideas popped into my mind that I would never normally have had. It was like, as if it was trying to control my mind. Mr. Irwin is right, this intracranial nerve signal transmission technology really has a fatal problem. Quote. Otto could doubt Leo, but he would not doubt Peter, who had been his assistant for so long. Otto couldn't have been more clear about Peter's being, he couldn't lie at all. However, Otto did not feel any emotional abnormality while using the sensor helmet. So Otto asked in disbelief. Really, however, I don't really feel anything when I put on the helmet. Why does such a strange thing happen? No one on the scene understood why better than Leo. Because with the help of the system, Leo has long been familiar with the working principle of intracranial nerve signal sensing technology, even better than Otto, the inventor of this technology. However, Leo could not explain all the technical principles to Otto and Peter. Because according to common sense, Leo should not know so many theoretical details about sensing technology. Talking too much will expose Leo's biggest secret. So, Leo can only simply say, that's because your mental power level is too weak to feel the subtle cognitive disturbances at the mental level. Peter and I have relatively strong mental powers, so we can feel the slight distortion in our mental cognition before and after wearing the helmet. Quote. Mr. Irwin, you mean spiritual power? Are you serious? We are not writing novels, where does spiritual power come from? You say that you are young, strong, energetic, and I can understand better than I can stay up late. But can something like spirit really be so different that it can be graded? Quote. Otto was very surprised when he heard Leo talk about mental power, a word that only exists in novels. Otto lives in the world of ordinary people, does not understand Leo's expression, and even feels that Leo is lying to him. Drive Octavius, Mr. Irwin didn't mean to lie to you. Some people can indeed have much more mental power than ordinary people. Although Otto didn't understand what Leo meant, Peter did. Peter took a deep look at Leo and felt that his own identity had been exposed, otherwise Leo could not be sure that his spiritual power was very strong. At the same time, he was very curious as to why Leo was so sacred that he had a much stronger mental strength than him. After all, Peter could only feel something wrong with the sensor helmet, but couldn't say why. And Leo has only tested it himself once, but has already summarized the rules of potential problems with the sensor helmet. In Peter's view, this is naturally because Leo's mental strength is much stronger than his. Leo didn't expect that in Peter's heart, he had already been marked with a mysterious and powerful label. After the double persuasion of Leo and Peter, Otto was silently doubting his life for more than 40 years. Peter wondered how holy Leo was, but he didn't speak. As for Bucky, as an outsider, Bucky is so bored that he almost falls asleep. Leo found that there was a sudden silence in the laboratory, and he was the first to speak out to break the silence, bringing the topic back to the original question. Now that you believe it, there is something wrong with this sensor helmet. With the mental power of ordinary people, it is impossible to control the nerve arm at all. Now, Leo felt that Peter and Otto had accepted his original statement, and continued the original topic, saying, "So, the second flaw is extremely fatal for the entire research project. With these two flaws combined, the so-called neural arm project has no commercial value at all." Quote. Peter and Otto both came back to their senses, listening to Leo continue to speak. "Peter, Dr. Octavius, I'm really sorry, there's really no possibility of making money with this project, so I can't help you. Moreover, I am here to persuade you as a friend to abandon this research project. Think of other ways to help those poor disabled people." Quote. Otto lowered his head and didn't speak. He didn't know what he was thinking about. It seemed that he didn't take Leo's suggestion too seriously. In contrast, Peter was very excited. He looked at Leo with expectant eyes and said, "Mr. Irwin, please think of a way to see if you can push the intracranial nerve signal sensing technology a step further and solve the negative effects of the sensing technology. Or, can you think of other ways to make a mechanical prosthesis with equally good performance? You are the most generous rich man I have ever met. You invented the L1 chip. You are so smart and you know so much. You must have a way, right?" Quote. Peter's passion and effort into this project was no less than Otto's. His pursuit is also very simple, that is, to help the poor disabled get a new life. You can say Madam Peter, but he is such a kind and selfless person, selfless enough to make people feel distressed, selfless enough to be respected. Because of this, Peter is loved by New Yorkers. Whenever he swings on the streets of New York wearing a spider suit, not only are the citizens not afraid of him, but they even take the initiative to say hello to him. Now, Peter put a lot of energy into it, and he was suddenly stillborn with the expectation of a beautiful longing. How could he give up easily? Leo can roughly guess Peter's current mood, but without enough interest, he really has no motivation to worry about this matter. He usually has to temper the mechanical force, to manufacture and develop new machinery, to manage the company. Leo is actually very busy, and he has no spare time and energy to do charity. "Peter, I know you really want to help those poor people, and I am so touched by your kindness and selflessness. But, sorry, I really can't do anything about it." Quote. Leo rejected Peter, turned his head to Otto who bowed his head and meditated. "Drive Octavius, I think tomorrow will be a good day for business. You go directly to L Technology tomorrow with the blueprint of the miniature nuclear reactor, and I will pay you 2.5 million to settle it. I am very sorry for not helping your research project today. However, our friendship is still there. If you need any help, please contact me in time. If I can help, I will definitely help." Quote. After many twists and turns, Leo is finally about to end his fulfilling trip to Otto's laboratory. With two new technologies, Leo couldn't wait to go back and try his various ideas. So, Leo and Otto bid Peter farewell and prepare to return to L Tech with the outsider Bucky. Since the Dr. Octopus tentacle poking incident that Leo was worried about did not happen, Bucky played soy sauce for a long time. At this time, I finally heard that Leo said that he could go back, and remembered that there were still a group of younger brothers and a night demon waiting for him to train, and he was very happy and looking forward to it. Just when the two turned to leave, Peter suddenly stopped in front of Leo and Bucky in a depressed mood. Peter said with a frustrated face, "Mr. Irwin, please think about it again." Leo was stunned, but he didn't expect Peter to be so obsessed with the nerve arm project. But Leo won't change his original decision, so he's ready to step forward to give Peter a comforting hug. System prompt. You have triggered the mission, Spider-Man's help. Task hint. The kind Peter Parker has been working hard on mechanical prosthetics for a long time, trying to help the poor disabled. Although now he has encountered great difficulties and almost failed, he is unwilling to give up. Therefore, he asks you for help. Task content. Help Peter Parker develop a high-level mechanical prosthesis whose performance needs to satisfy Peter. Task reward. Randomly draw a personal specialty or skill of Spider-Man Peter Parker. Accept, reject. Suddenly, a system prompt popped up, and Leo actually triggered the task from Peter. Since leaving Hydra, not counting Bucky, Leo has had the most contact with the main Marvel character, Daredevil Mark Murdock. Therefore, Leo has been tirelessly pushing and hinting that he wants to receive a task from Matt, but the system task is not released. Unexpectedly, Leo suddenly received a task from Peter today. This is true, if you plant flowers without intention, they will not bloom, but plant willows and willows inadvertently. However, so far, Leo has not analyzed how the mechanic system issued the task. Leo quickly flashed through several tasks he had received in his mind, and found that these tasks appeared irregularly. It seems that there is a big hand invisibly manipulating all this. As long as the big hand feels that the task should come, the task will come. Although Leo thought a lot, in fact, time has only passed for a moment. Before the task was suddenly triggered, Leo had actually made the action of hugging Peter, and of course he couldn't freeze in place at this time. So, Leo smiled and stepped forward and hugged Peter gently, then let go. Peter, your kindness really surprised me, really, you touched me. So, I decided to reconsider your proposal to help you develop a new type of mechanical prosthesis. Quote. Peter didn't even think that Leo would agree to help him, and his last request was only because he was too depressed and wanted to seek comfort. At this time, when Peter heard that Leo had promised to help him develop a new type of mechanical prosthesis, he was overjoyed and said in disbelief. Mr. Irwin, are you telling the truth? Thank you so much for your generosity and kindness. Peter's heart was full of surprises, and he never thought about why Leo had rejected him just now, why he would suddenly agree to help now. In Peter's subconscious, Leo is now a very mysterious and powerful person. Even, Peter has a little worship of Leo. No one can blame Peter for adoring Leo so easily. After all, Peter never wondered why he was bitten by a spider and suddenly acquired such amazing superpowers. Peter firmly believes that there must be other people like him in this world. Peter himself was bitten by a spider and was able to climb walls. So, will there be people who have been bitten by flies and can fly? Can a person bitten by a snake burrow into the ground? Can a person who was bitten by a chameleon change color? When Peter first gained his powers, he was still very young, and at that time, he often thought like this. Although he hadn't seen anyone like it over the years, he still believed in it because he was a living example. Peter felt like he had now met a possible kin, Leo. He even felt that Leo must have been bitten by some very powerful and intelligent creature, so he mutated so well. Of course Leo didn't know what Peter was thinking about, let alone that he had already gained a little fanboy. Peter, let me say the ugly first, I invested to help you develop a mechanical prosthesis, and it must be for the purpose of making money. Therefore, in the process of research and development, we must pay attention to the trade-offs. It is impossible to achieve perfection in everything, and even in the end, we may end in failure. You must be mentally prepared for this. Quote, seeing that Peter was so happy and excited, Leo splashed him with cold water first, and by the way gave him a vaccination. Peter nodded quickly and agreed. As long as Leo was willing to contribute to this project, he was already very happy. Suddenly such a thing happened. Leo, who was about to leave Otto's laboratory, couldn't leave for a while. He wanted to stay and discuss the details of the funding carefully with Peter and Otto. Moreover, the neural arm project must have failed. It is impossible to create a mechanical prosthesis that meets the requirements of Peter and Leo. It must be abandoned and new methods must be found. Leo needs to think carefully about how to quickly and perfectly create a mechanical prosthesis that meets the requirements of the task. Because this is related to the evaluation of the completion of the task, and the low evaluation task rewards are often garbage, and only the high evaluation task rewards will be extremely useful to Leo. Seeing Leo sitting back in his chair and chatting with Peter and Otto, the outsider Bucky was particularly bored. He sat next to Leo, and was free to do nothing, washing the playing cards in his hand in a fancy way over and over again, making a rustling sound. Although Leo was chatting with Peter and Otto at this time, his mental strength was relatively strong, and he could do two things with one mind. At the same time, he was thinking about how to complete the task with high evaluation. A man's sixth sense told Leo that it was not as difficult as he imagined to accomplish this task. Leo felt that he must have forgotten something, so he couldn't think of a way to break the game. This kind of very important thing, but can't remember the feeling of life and death is very uncomfortable. Leo's mood is a little impatient. At this time, Bucky's soft shuffling sound seemed a bit harsh. Moreover, Leo's hearing is much better than that of ordinary people. For him, Bucky's shuffling sound is no different from loud noises at this time. So, Leo subconsciously looked at Bucky's hands, preparing to stop Bucky's boring behavior. Bucky's gloved hands were twirling the cards nimbly at the moment. Suddenly, Leo's mind flashed, and he suddenly remembered what he had forgotten. This guy Bucky, isn't he disabled? He has no left hand. But look, does he look a little disabled now? Bucky's robotic arm, or muscle sensing technology, is the key to making flexible robotic prosthetics. The problem was solved in an instant. The highly rated task was expected to be completed, and a smile immediately appeared on Leo's face. Peter keenly noticed the change in Leo's expression and quickly asked, "Mr. Irwin, what makes you so happy?" "Peter, I just suddenly thought of a very mature technology, and there were no side effects." Leo was in a happy mood. "We are expected to use this technology to create a mechanical prosthesis that is not inferior to the flexibility of the neural arm." "Really?" Before Peter could respond, Otto suddenly stood up excitedly and shouted excitedly, "Is there really such a technology? Mr. Irwin, please speak up and listen." Leo, Peter, and Bucky were all taken aback by Otto's sudden excitement. Otto also realized his gaffe, and quickly smiled and apologized to everyone. "Sorry, I just heard that a goal I've been working on for years is suddenly possible. I'm so excited. I'm sorry. Why is this Otto so nervous? Could it be that under the influence of the nerve arm debuff, there is no cure for him? Otherwise, how could he speak and act in such a shocking manner that he was not polite at all?" However, Leo was not angry because of Otto's impoliteness. After all, Otto looked very pitiful, and it was okay to be more forgiving to him. So Leo told Peter and Otto the general concept and framework of muscle sensing technology. "It's amazing, the technology is amazing." After listening to Leo's introduction, Peter couldn't help but marvel. "Drive Octavius, with the support of this technology, I believe we will soon be able to develop a suitable mechanical prosthesis." However, Otto did not respond enthusiastically to Peter. Instead he frowned and said nothing, no longer the excited look before. I don't know why. After listening to Leo's introduction, Otto seemed a little disappointed and frustrated. "Drive Octavius, Dr. Octavius." After Peter's repeated reminders, Otto came back to his senses. "Peter, you were right. With this technology, you can indeed fulfill your beautiful wishes." Peter had a vision for a better future in his head, so he didn't notice Otto's wording, "you," instead of "we." "Mr. Irwin, this muscle sensing technology can basically replace neural sensing technology perfectly. In this way, we only need to solve the portable energy problem, and we can successfully create the desired mechanical prosthesis." Quote. Peter looked excited, full of energy. At this time, Leo threw out another good news. "Peter, I have another technology here that can meet the energy needs of a mechanical prosthesis." Next, Leo briefly introduced the miniature high compression battery technology to Peter and Otto. The mechanical prosthesis does not need to be as powerful as Bucky's robotic arm. The purpose of its use is to let the user take a walk every day and pick up something, and the energy consumption is naturally much smaller. Leo estimates that a fully charged, tiny, high-compression battery can support a robotic prosthesis for about a full day of movement. In fact, as long as the energy can last through the day and the user of the mechanical prosthesis can change or recharge the energy at night, it is considered a success. The miniature high-compression battery is not large, and 3 to 5 can be installed on a mechanical prosthesis. In this way, the mechanical prosthesis does not need to worry about energy problems at all. In addition, the manufacturing cost of the miniature high-compression battery is not expensive, and it can be recharged and reused, which is relatively cheap. It can be said that the miniature high-compression battery can perfectly meet the energy requirements of mechanical prosthetics. In this case, why did Leo say when he was looking for the shortcomings of the spirit arm, just now that he couldn't think of any cheap and high-capacity energy sources that could replace miniature nuclear reactors? That's because, of course, it's too early to be unprofitable. Besides, Leo was refusing to invest in the spiritual arm project at the time. Naturally, the more shortcomings of the project, the better. Leo gave 2 key technologies in a row, which basically solved all the problems of high-level mechanical prosthetics. After listening to Leo's introduction to the various parameters of the miniature high-compression battery, Peter immediately understood that this battery is definitely the best choice for high-level mechanical prosthetics. Leo's profound knowledge and mastery of high-tech technology deeply impressed Peter. He exclaimed, "Mr. Irwin, you are amazing. With the support of these 2 technologies, I believe that prototype products of high-level mechanical prosthetics will be available soon. Quote, Peter was like a dream this afternoon. First, the Spirit Arm project was declared a death sentence by Leo, and then a new high-level mechanical prosthesis was suddenly within reach and within reach. His mood was like a roller coaster, going up and down. But luckily, he's also on it. Hey, why use it here? When Leo saw Peter with a happy face, it was as if he saw a high-rated mission beckoning to him, and he was naturally very happy. Simply, Leo made Peter happier. Peter, I actually have a drawing here, which is a robotic arm made with muscle sensing technology and miniature high-compression battery technology. However, it was not originally designed to be used as a mechanical prosthesis. But if you take it as a reference for a prototype product, that's enough. Quote, the drawings that Leo prepared to give to Peter were naturally the light-loaded power arm he originally designed. With this drawing, I believe that Peter can design a mechanical prosthesis that he is satisfied with faster, so that Leo can complete the task faster. At the same time, Leo guessed that Peter should have realized that Leo is not an ordinary person, and may be guessing his identity in his heart. It just so happened that Leo was going to use this high-tech blueprint that could be used as a weapon to give Peter a more intuitive feeling, so that Peter could understand Leo's heritage and power. But how could Leo guess that when he repeatedly used all kinds of high-tech to help Peter, he was almost shocked by Peter? Peter can't imagine now, what is it that bites Leo to make Leo evolve into such a pervert? Mr. Irwin, you know so much. There was a faint glimmer of admiration in Peter's eyes. Leo now looks to be in his 20s, not even a few years older than Peter. But he is now not only rich, but also the sole director of a new company, a properly successful person in society. Moreover, in Peter's mind, Leo is still a mysterious and powerful person. As a college student who just graduated, it is natural for Peter to have some envy, longing, and even admiration for people like Leo. Not to mention, in Peter's eyes, Leo is so knowledgeable, and very generous, almost responsive, both technically and financially. So Peter couldn't help but say, Mr. Irwin, you are amazing, just like the Jingle Cat in the manga. I can't help but suspect that you're from the future just like him, and also have a magical pocket of all sorts of magical items. Quote, if Peter hadn't been sane, he would have even suspected that Jingle Cat did exist and bit Mr. Irwin. Otherwise, how could Leo seem to know everything at such a young age? Not only Peter thinks so, even Otto thinks Leo can solve any problem. Otto thought about it for a long time, and finally asked Leo, Mr. Irwin, do you have any technology similar to intracranial nerve signal sensing? I still don't want to give up on this direction. Want to go deeper. I wonder if you have a similar mature technology that I can learn from. Quote, Otto is not as happy as Peter, but his eyes contain determination, longing, and even some prayers. Leo saw the complicated emotions in Otto's eyes, and was secretly suspicious. What happened to Otto? It stands to reason that Leo has provided both funding and systematic technology, and high-level mechanical prosthetics should be easily made. Otto should be as happy as Peter, right? Even if Otto suddenly doesn't want to do a mechanical prosthesis, he now has a large amount of money, he can't do anything else well, why does he have to compete with the doomed intracranial nerve signal sensing technology? Leo didn't understand what Otto was thinking, and he didn't have the curiosity and energy to figure it out. So Leo said truthfully, sorry, Dr. Octavius, I'm not the Doraemon Peter was referring to when he was joking, so there's no magic dimensional pocket that can do anything. I really don't have the tech in neurosensing, so I'm sorry I can't help you. Quote, Otto was very disappointed when he heard Leo's negative answer. Peter is as confused as Leo, and feels that Otto today is weird, and he doesn't know why Otto is in a low mood. But as Otto's assistant, half a student, he still comforted Otto in a low voice with concern. Under the comfort of Peter, Otto's mental state gradually stabilized a lot. At this moment, it was getting late, and Leo had to go back to the company earlier to prepare a celebration feast for the new product launch, so he couldn't stay in Otto's laboratory for a long time. However, Leo not only took the initiative to come up with muscle sensing technology, miniature high-compression battery drawings, and lightweight power arm drawings, but also provided a lot of research funds in the future. This time, Leo paid too much price, which was not in line with his character at all. It's just a task reward from Peter, and it can't meet Leo's interest expectations at all. What he really plotted was not a mere quest reward. What he plotted in the end was actually Peter and Otto. At this time, Otto was no longer very disappointed, and Peter lost his excitement just now. Both of them calmed down and regained their normal thinking and judgment. Only then did Leo speak Shishirin and said the plan he had planned for a long time. You two, look, the next mechanical prosthesis project, all the key technologies and funding, will be provided by me alone. Well, this is no longer your research project, this is my research project, and it is the research project of Tech. Only now, I've delegated this project to the two of you. Quote. Leo first affirmed that he is the full owner of this project, and then went on to say. So, this project is not suitable to be carried out on the New York campus, in your laboratory, Dr. Octavius. For this project, I am going to set up a new mechanical prosthesis department in the L building at Tech. I will be the supervisor myself, mainly responsible for supervision. Peter and Dr. Octavius, both of you as deputy supervisors, have the same rights and are mainly responsible for the implementation of the project. I don't know how the two of you feel. Quote. Peter and Otto looked at each other with wide eyes, and were a little confused by Leo's sudden suggestion. They thought they would still be working in a familiar laboratory. Leo looked at the expressions of the two and thought they were hesitating, so he threw out the benefit distribution system he had already formulated to tempt them. Of course, the original idea of the mechanical prosthesis came from you, so if the project is successful and makes money, I can give each of you 10% of the total project profit as a bonus at the end of the year. Moreover, when you join Tech as the deputy director of the department, you will also receive a matching monthly salary and various benefits. However, if you don't join, I can only give you 5% of the total profit. Quote. Leo threw out the temptation of interest and quietly waited for Peter and Otto's reply. He was full of confidence and felt that this recruitment plan would be guaranteed. When Peter first heard Leo's proposal, he really didn't want to leave the lab he had been in for a long time. Moreover, he is still subconsciously disgusted with the blind lawyer in the office next to the Air building. Therefore, Peter rejected Leo's suggestion at first, and even thought, how can Mr. Irwin be so deliberately embarrassing? But when he thought about it carefully, and then tried to look at this issue from Leo's standpoint, he suddenly found that Leo was really great. Peter felt that if Leo really wanted to embarrass others, he could actually ignore the life and death of him and Otto. Leo can definitely independently develop a successful mechanical prosthesis, and then sell it directly for money, without paying him and Otto's salaries and dividends. Such an analysis, Peter firmly believes that Leo is definitely not the kind of person who forgets his own interests. In an instant, Leo's personality became a little taller in Peter's heart. But how did Peter know that if there was no absolute motivation for Peter's task, Leo would not be able to tinker with any mechanical prosthesis himself? There are many ways to make money in his mind, and even he can make a lot of money by selling miniature high-compression batteries alone, so there is no need to make money from mechanical prostheses. Leo did his best to contribute both money and effort. Didn't he just want to get both people and money in a natural way? Peter thought he had figured out the whole truth of the matter, and he volunteered to be tricked by Leo. Mr. Irwin, I just thought about it clearly, and I am willing to support your proposal to work in Irwin Technology. Peter turned to look at Otto Road again. I think, with such a good opportunity, Dr. Octavius, you will definitely be willing to go to Tech with me. Doctor, we can continue our research work together again. And this time, it must be much faster than the previous research, and it will be much smoother. Quote. In Peter's cognition, Otto has always had the same goal as him, both wanting to successfully manufacture mechanical prostheses to benefit disabled people around the world. Now that there is hope for the completion of their goals, Otto has no reason to refuse to work at Tech. However, to Peter's surprise, Otto actually refused. Peter, go to Tech by yourself, your goal is there. Also, you will have a much better future there than with me. I've been at NYU for decades, and the campus areas and labs feel like home to me, and there are some old friends here who are like family. I'm getting old and don't want to leave here. Now I have another $2.5 million from selling the miniature nuclear reactor technology, and I don't need to continue investing in the failed nerve arm project. This money is enough for the rest of my life to live comfortably, even in luxury. In the future, I just want to teach and teach quietly at NYU and spend the rest of my life in peace. So, Peter, don't worry about me. Quote. Otto smiled kindly, his eyes full of longing for the future. Drive Octavius, I am so envious of your future life. In fact, I have always dreamed of this kind of life. Wake up every morning and have a meal with your loved ones. In the evening, have a drink with friends and chat. Isn't life beautiful? Hey, but life is often involuntary. For example, I have lost even a relative and an old friend from the past. Quote. The outsider Bucky next to him didn't understand the truth of the matter at all. At this time, he was a little longing for and jealous of Otto's better life in the future. But Leo won't believe that Otto will have a good future in the future. There is only one reason, that is, Dr. Octopus will definitely blacken the law. Not only Leo, but even Peter didn't believe Otto's words. Drive Octavius, there is no way you would say such a thing, this is not you. Peter shook his head again and again, staring at Otto with doubtful eyes with seriousness and scrutiny. Do you remember half a year ago, when the nerve arm was successfully activated for the first time, you drank happily until you got very drunk, and finally said what you said after getting drunk? You may not remember it, but I remember it clearly. Yes, you really like NYU's open campus, but you don't like the lab at all. When you were drunk, you said that when your project is successful and you apply for funding, you must change to a larger and brighter laboratory. Moreover, you also said at the time that there are many teachers at New York University who are chasing fame and fortune, which makes you very unhappy. Quote. Peter got more and more excited because he was worried about Otto, stood up and said loudly. Home, family, doctor, what are you talking about? Dr. Octavius, what's the matter with you? Why are you making up a reason for refusing to go to L-Tech? What are you hiding from me? Quote. There was a sudden silence in the laboratory, and the atmosphere was a little tense. The outsider Bucky finally said something, but at this time he realized that he had made a mistake, and hurriedly lowered his head and played poker quietly. Although Leo could guess that Otto was not telling the truth, he did not expect that Otto would be exposed on the spot by Peter. In fact, he also wanted to know why Otto refused to work at L Technology and why he lied. So Leo didn't come forward to settle things, but chose to sit quietly and eat melons. After a long time, Otto sighed deeply and said, Peter, I don't want to go to L-Tech, I don't want to leave the lab, just because I want to stay here and continue to research intracranial nerve signal sensing technology. Otto paused and wanted to raise his hands to rub his face, but he tried several times without success, so he put it down helplessly. Otto sighed again and continued, Peter, I'm sorry, I lied to you. The original intention of my research on the neural arm was not as high-sounding as I said to you. In fact, the ultimate purpose of my research on the nerve arm is for myself. Quote. Peter didn't understand what Otto said, and asked suspiciously. Drive Octavius, what do you mean? You have good hands and feet, what do you want a nerve arm for? Humph. Well, Otto raised his palms upwards, stared at his hands and said. They're not good, or they're dying, haven't you noticed? I couldn't even rub my face just now. Peter was even more puzzled, and he asked, Doctor, what happened? Why am I getting more and more confused? I have a problem with my body, the doctor said it's called degenerative neurological syndrome, and he said there is no cure for it. And one of the main reasons for my illness is that I was exposed to slight nuclear radiation when I solved the radiation problem of the miniature nuclear reactor. Another major reason may be that when I was doing research, I was exposed to toxic substances for too long. It was because I was too careless when I was young and did things too recklessly. Quote. Otto shook his head and said helplessly, but the strange thing is that this symptom only affects the muscles, my mind is still working normally, but I can't control my body freely, and it will get worse in the future. Therefore, I invented this set of intracranial nerve signal sensing technology, hoping that after my muscles fail, I can still rely on it to live independently. I'm sorry Peter, I lied to you. You go, you don't have to worry about me anymore, start your own new life, you don't need to be implicated by me in your future, then I will feel guilty. Quote. Otto finally revealed to Peter the secret he had been hiding for a long time. It also showed his willingness to continue the research on intracranial nerve signal sensing technology. Peter was saddened to know that Otto's body was in trouble, that he had an incurable disease, and that he would not even be able to live independently in the future. Although Otto lied to Peter before, Peter felt very sorry for poor Otto and had no idea of blaming Otto at all. Peter sees Otto also working on the problematic nerve arm project. Can't help worrying about the authentic Doctor, don't go to the doctor in a hurry and find a cure. Just now, Mr. Irwin and I have confirmed that this neural arm project has huge side effects. How can you keep using this thing? It affects your brain and makes you lose your mind. Quote, Peter, don't worry, I just said that I will continue to research this technology. I would never use it recklessly until safety is guaranteed. Quote, Otto smiled, reassuring Peter, and continued. People always need some goals to be more motivated and life to be more colorful. Peter, you know my character, I can't lie in an easy chair and die. I always have to do something for myself, and I can't let my future have no illusions. Quote, then I'll stay and help you. Peter insisted stubbornly. The two of us are always stronger than you alone, and we are more likely to find a solution. Peter's voice was faintly crying. He had no parents since he was a child, and grew up with his uncle and aunt, and his uncle died early due to an accident, and he was extremely lacking in the care of others. During these years in college, Otto treated him sincerely, and Peter really regarded Otto as a family member. Otto looked at Peter, who had been studying with him for a few years in front of him, and felt various emotions in his heart. But he did not want to delay Peter's future because of himself, and persuaded with a smile. Peter, you stay and help me, so who will help the thousands of disabled people in the world? Otto saw the struggle and pain in Peter's eyes, and comforted him from another angle. Also, it's not that you can't help me when you go to technology. My research needs funding, which is a significant expense every year. If you go to work at Technology, and manage the mechanical prosthesis project well, I can count on 5% of the total profit to live on in the future. Quote, Otto used a joking tone to point out that he was still short of money. Peter was amused by Otto's interesting persuasion, and then had an expression that seemed to understand. Otto struck while the iron was hot, and then persuaded. Peter, although you are smart, if you keep following me, the two of us behind closed doors will not be able to bring about a breakthrough in neural sensing technology. You should go to Irwin to learn knowledge and technology from Mr. Irwin. Then, you can have more inspiration and ideas. Moreover, you will be able to come into contact with all kinds of characters in the future, maybe which one has the method that can heal me. Quote, Peter's eyes grew brighter and Otto continued. Peter, don't worry, I assure you again that this immature, intracranial nerve signal sensing technology will not be used indiscriminately. This time, Peter was finally persuaded by Otto. Leo watched the two people say goodbye and was speechless. Otto and Peter were unintentional, but Leo didn't sound right. How did these two make tech look like a bus? Go up if you want, go if you want. But who asked Peter to get in the car? Leo reacted with dismay in his heart, and he endured it. In addition, Leo cannot deny Otto's final decision. No one knows better than Leo that there is no room for improvement in intracranial nerve signal sensing technology. Otto couldn't remove the negative effects of the technology anyway. But Leo didn't tell Otto and Peter that. He only said before that this technology is flawed, but did not point out that this technology can no longer be improved. Fortunately, Leo likes to talk and stay in the line, otherwise Otto would probably have no love at this time. Now Otto still has a goal in his mind, which is better than his desperate madness. After thinking about it, Leo felt that Otto's life was really pitiful, and it was much worse than his Leo anyway. Although Leo suddenly appeared in another world, far away from home and relatives. But after all, this world is not unfamiliar, and he also brought a golden finger that can become stronger, so it is not that there is no chance to go back in the future. Even if he really can't go back, at least he is happier than Alto in this world. The kindness that had been gradually buried in the bottom of my heart suddenly appeared to make trouble. Leo suddenly felt that he might be able to do more for the miserable Otto. Although he can't provide the technology to solve Otto's physical problems, he does have a method that may give Otto a chance. Drive Octavius, I'm really sorry to hear that you have this strange disease. Well, I can amicably fund your research with $1 million in advance. After you spend the $2.5 million that you deserve, you can always ask me to draw this money. However, the money will eventually be deducted from your dividends at the end of the year. Quote, Leo first took out a seemingly practical sincerity, and took the opportunity to earn a wave of gratitude from Peter and Otto. Then, he uttered a method that sounded illusory, but was actually more practical. I mentioned before when I said the shortcomings of sensing technology that strong mental power can weaken or even be immune to the side effects of sensing technology. So, if you really can't solve the negative effects of intracranial nerve signal sensing technology, you might as well make an effort in this direction. Quote. Otto looked confused and didn't know how to increase the mysterious spiritual power, and asked doubtfully, Mr. Irwin, what should I do to increase my spiritual power? Actually, I don't know what to do, but I have a legend here that may help you. Leo stood with his hands behind his back, with a 45-degree elevation toward the sky. Although this posture is very second in his original world, but in this world, in this era, it made Leo pretend to be full of mystery. He said quietly, in legend, Kathmandu, Nepal, has a mysterious holy place called Kamathaji. Some people with incredible abilities live there. When you're desperate, try your luck there. But you have to remember that when you get there, don't force it, don't doubt it, and don't deceive. You just need to be honest about your purpose, make a request, and have a reverent and determined heart. If you have a fate with them, someone will naturally save you. If you get nothing, it only means that you have no fate with them. Quote. Yes, you guessed right, the method that Leo introduced to Otto was to find that mysterious group of mages in the Marvel world. They do whatever they want and pay attention to fate. Maybe Otto really has a fate with them. If Otto can really become a mage in the end, then his disease will not be a problem. Moreover, the group of mages specialize in soul and spiritual training. At that time, it is estimated that the side effects of Otto's immune, intracranial nerve signal sensing technology will not be a big problem. At that time, Leo fooled Otto again, brought 4 mechanical tentacles, and danced behind him. The original hands, defensive runes in one hand, and attack spells in the other. Mage Dr. Octavius, this name, this picture, it makes me very emotional when I think about it. Thinking of this, Leo had an idea, and a bolder idea suddenly popped up in his mind. The title of Mage Octavius sounds very interesting, but the title of Mage Irwin sounds not bad at all. Leo's bold idea is that when he is free later, why not go to Nepal or the Himalayas and try to learn spells? Of course, the New York Mage Temple can of course also learn spells, but Leo doesn't know where this temple is. Leo didn't know if he had a relationship with the mage himself. It is also unclear whether he has the talent to become a mage. It is even more unclear whether his mechanic system can help him learn spells quickly. But becoming a mage is always worth a try. It's not just because of Marvel, the magician's tricks are so handsome. More because, Venerable Gu Yi has a time gem that makes Leo jealous. If Leo's talent was as high as Stephen Strange's, maybe the Ancient One would pass him the Eye of Agamotto. In this way, he will be able to get the first Infinity Stone without much effort. Leo's desire to collect the Infinity Stones didn't happen on a whim. In fact, he had the idea of collecting the Infinity Stones for a long time, as early as when he first came to this world, as early as when he tried to find a way to return to the original world. The 6 Infinity Stones in the Marvel Universe, once collected, will have infinite power. Leo felt that starting from this direction, he could definitely return to his original world. But these are all things to come. Leo has no time or courage to go to the lair of the group of mages now. Therefore, he wanted Otto to try his luck in Nepal first, and ask for information by the way. If Otto can get away with being a mage, or even a higher status, then, with Leo's kindness to Otto, I believe that Otto will not refuse to guide Leo to become a mage. However, these are the most ideal scenarios envisioned by Leo, and the actual implementation requires luck, which is definitely difficult. Just like now, when Otto heard Leo's suggestion, he obviously didn't quite believe it. Mr. Irwin, thank you for your generous help and thoughtful advice. I will definitely try my luck in Nepal in the future. But Leo saw it, and Otto was just talking about it. Otto actually believed in himself, and even more in illusory luck and legends. So, if he will go to Nepal, then God knows. However, Leo did not force it. If he could become a mage in the end, it would only be the icing on the cake. His main energy will still be on the profession of mechanic. After solving Otto's matter again, the outsider Bucky felt that this trip to Otto's laboratory was finally coming to an end. He's terribly bored here, implicitly suggesting that Leo leaves soon. He was not successful in recruiting Ao, although Leo was a little disappointed. But now Otto's body turned out to be in such a bad situation. In fact, it was of little significance to recruit him or not. Besides, Peter has agreed to become an employee of Tech, which has already met Leo's earlier expectations. Leo thought to himself that he had a good relationship with Peter now. As long as he is looking for a suitable opportunity, he should be able to easily obtain the spider silk launcher he planned earlier from Peter. Leo reviewed his trip to Otto's laboratory and found that he had gained a lot, but he had not paid much. Leo does not appreciate the mere millions of dollars in wealth. He even felt that he could make more money from the mechanical prosthesis project in the future. Therefore, this trip to the laboratory, for Leo, the result can be described as a complete success. It is really late now, and Leo has to go back to the company to prepare things. So Leo said, "Drive Octavius, that's all for now, we'll see you tomorrow afternoon at L Technologies. Also, good luck finding a cure soon, God bless you." Quote. Leo thought for a while, then said to Peter, "Peter, why don't you go back to the company with me and Bucky now? In the future, you will also be a member of the senior management of the company. It is best to participate in the company dinner in the evening. It is very important to have a good relationship with your colleagues." Quote. Peter could no longer refuse Leo's invitation, and could only follow. As he was leaving, he said to Otto, "Drive Octavius, I'm leaving now, thank you very much for your care and teaching over the years. Also, you must take care of your health, I will come back to see you often in the future." Quote. Otto laughed dumbly and explained, "Peter, it's not that I'm so sick that I can't walk, you don't have to worry too much, it's the most important thing to concentrate on your career. Moreover, my disease is very special. The doctor said that within 2 or 3 years, my body will be able to support it, and it is not a big problem." Quote. Although 2 or 3 years is not short, it is not really long. Otto said it lightly, but no one knew what he was thinking in his heart. At 8 o'clock in the evening, at the entrance of a high-end hotel, a group of people from L Technology had finished their meal and were saying goodbye to each other. The dinner was of high standard, and the lowest-ranking participants were all at the level of Deputy Director of Air Technology. Therefore, in fact, the total number of participants can be counted on one hand. Chairman Leo, Head of Security Department, Bucky, Head of Logistics Department and Finance Department, Old Tom who has been with Leo for the longest time, Fudge Nelson, Head of Legal Department and Personnel Department, Mark, Special Legal Counsel, Deputy Head of Technology Department, Gao Wen, Heather, who has been promoted to Head of Sales at today's dinner, and Peter, who has just officially joined L Tech. These few people are the current pillars of L Technology. However, the composition of the company's personnel is temporarily a bit young and in decline, and Leo needs to actively introduce talents. Today is a celebration party. With a big wave of Leo's hand, he chose a high-end hotel. Delicious food, cinnamon wine and pepper paste are naturally indispensable. For a meal, several people spent a full $3,000. This made Old Tom, who had become a miser, talk about it for a long time. Old Tom hasn't had a drink in a long time. Today is the one he drank the most, but the wine smells the worst. Bucky has now been lifted into the car. Seeing Old Tom smelling of alcohol and not knowingly drunk, Bucky was afraid that he would vomit into the car, so he stuffed him into the trunk. Gawain lived far away, so he also said goodbye to catch the bus. Mark and Heather, now an open couple, strolled away sweetly. Heather jumped up and down with joy as she left, apparently rejoicing at her promotion. Seeing that his good friend had just thrown him away, Fudge curled his lips, spread his hands, and went to the side of the road to move the car, preparing to leave with Leo and the others. At the entrance of the hotel, Leo and Peter were left alone. "Peter, you are welcome to join L Technology, and you can start coming to work tomorrow." Peter readily agreed. At this time, a car suddenly stopped beside the two of them, the door opened, and a young and beautiful girl stepped out of the car. It turned out that Mary Jane had come to pick up Peter. It's summer now, and the weather in New York is already getting hot. Mary Jane wore a long white dress with high heels on her feet. She was beautifully dressed. She stood in front of Peter beautifully and greeted Leo warmly. Peter looked at Mary Jane like a fairy, and his face turned into a chrysanthemum. Leo felt that he couldn't be a high-power light bulb here, which would not only delay the beautiful scenery of Peter and Mary Jane, but also feed himself. He had already eaten enough to eat just now, and he would vomit if he ate it again. So, Leo quickly said goodbye. "Peter, Then I'll go first, see you tomorrow. After taking 2 steps, Leo said mischievously without looking back. Peter, you drank a lot of alcohol today. You must pay attention to your health at night. Then, afraid of being beaten, Leo quickly left. Peter and Mary Jane were young and thin-skinned, and they all turned red-faced. But fortunately no one saw it, and the two even thought each other's red face was cuter. MJ, where are we going now? Of course I'm going to my house, why don't I go to your pig's nest? Although it is summer now, Peter feels that he has ushered in a sunny spring. It was getting late, and it was very quiet in Hell's Kitchen now. Leo drove the car all the way to the door. When passing the corner earlier, Fudge had said goodbye to Leo and drove back to his own home. Fudge grew up in Hell's Kitchen and knew how to protect himself. Coupled with the fact that Hell's Kitchen has been rectified by Bucky, Leo is not worried about his safety at all. At the door of his house, Leo asked Bucky to get out of the car, and then watched as Bucky lifted Old Tom out of the trunk. Old Tom was obviously very drunk, and he didn't wake up at this time, and let Bucky put on his collar and walk to the door of the house. Leo rolled down the car window and watched the two enter the house. Then, Leo turned the front of the car and drove the car directly to the door of the L building. Leo got 2 surprising black technologies from Auto today. These 2 technologies, to mechanic Leo, are as tempting as a grinding goblin. How could he sleep at night? Moreover, with Leo's current physical quality, he only needs 3 or 4 hours of deep sleep every day to be full of energy for a whole day. So, in order not to waste his life, Leo naturally had to work late every night. Either temper mechanical force, or develop new mechanical technology, or upgrade STEM. There are so many fun things to do, what's the point of sleeping? After greeting the doorman Zikwan skillfully, Leo turned around and entered the company. On the basement floor of the L building, with 2 beeps, the security door opened, and Leo stepped into the dark laboratory. The next moment, the lights in the laboratory automatically turned on, and a childish voice sounded crisply. Master, welcome back, STEM at your service. In the center of the laboratory, a round, crawler robot was shaking its long cylindrical probe head and greeted Leo warmly. STEM, turn on your auxiliary modeling function, we have work to do. Leo opened his system panel, and blueprints appeared one by one, followed by 3-dimensional miniature models. No need to see it with the naked eye, as long as Leo selects a drawing, the model will naturally appear in his mind. He can see every corner of the model with God's perspective. However, this model is just a dead thing, and Leo cannot perform computational simulations and transformations on the model in his mind. Therefore, he needs STEM's assistance. Leo pulled over a chair and sat beside the experimental bench, in front of a self-made computer. With his fingers flying, Leo quickly entered the relevant parameters of the miniature nuclear reactor blueprint and the intracranial nerve sensing helmet blueprint in his mind. The blueprint has been obtained, and the automatic modeling is in progress. On the screen, 3-dimensional models are displayed one by one, with a series of complex parameters attached to them. Leo manipulated the model to rotate and zoom, and after examining it carefully, he found that it was exactly the same as the 3-dimensional model in his system panel. Leo selected the miniature nuclear reactor model and ordered STEM model split. The next moment, the model was quickly unpacked into individual blocks. Originally, he needed to draw the drawings by hand, and then manually split them. Now, with STEM's help, a lot of his time has been saved. He only needs to check whether the split module is correct at the end. In this way, in the actual manufacturing process, Leo saved the process of drawing his own drawings, which greatly improved the work efficiency. New project, name, miniature nuclear reactor, notes, energy, import the current drawing. Estimated number of manufacturing targets, 1, count the list of required materials. Quote. After careful inspection, the module split was correct, and Leo gave STEM another order. The new project is completed, the list of materials has been counted, and the comparison and analysis with the inventory materials are being carried out. The analysis is over, the material is missing 58%, the details are as follows. A long list of materials appeared on the display, and at the top was the most important source of energy in a miniature nuclear reactor, uranium. STEM, print out the list directly in Old Tom's office, and let him do it as soon as he arrives tomorrow, the sooner the better. successfully connected to the printer, ready to print. With a flash of inspiration, Leo hurriedly stopped. Stim, delete the uranium element from the list, you won't be able to get old Tom to buy him. Also, you have to strengthen your studies, you must be good at analysis and judgment, such an obvious mistake should not be made again in the future. Quote. The uranium element Leo is going to buy from Otto's channel. Just when Otto comes to the L building tomorrow, he will mention this to him. I believe that as long as the money is in place, everything is not a problem. Okay, Master, the material list has been printed, and the uranium element has been deleted. Stim's voice became a little aggrieved, and Leo couldn't help laughing. At the same time, in old Tom's office, the printer squeaked out a page of A4 paper. The entire air building is now increasingly automated, with Stim, a powerful artificial intelligence, controlling everything. The overall technology level of this building can definitely get rid of several streets of current civilian technology. Looking at the list of materials on the computer screen, most of which are drawn with red crosses, Leo knew that the miniature nuclear reactor project could only be like this for the time being, and it needed to wait for the materials to be in place before proceeding. Leo followed the gourd and painted a scoop and created a new project with several drawings related to intracranial nerve sensing technology. However, the materials related to sensing technology are still seriously lacking, and Leo can only print a few more lists for old Tom. Until tomorrow, Stim will automatically urge old Tom to go shopping. Lack of key materials, Leo is temporarily unable to make real objects. However, this does not prevent Leo from building a model of a new generation of mecha first. Stim, rename the project. Rename the Big Iron Warframe, Project 2, Viper 1 foot and remove its energy mod. Modify the project goal, dexterity, lightness, raid, lore. Quote. The big iron armor was mentioned earlier, and the energy used is a high compression battery pack. It has been made by Leo and is now eating ashes in a corner of the laboratory. Because Warframe sports require a lot of energy support, the volume of the high compression battery pack is very large. Therefore, the potbelly made of the last big iron armor was evaluated by Stim as extremely ugly in shape. The project has been renamed, and the energy mod has been removed. As soon as Stim finished speaking, the corresponding three-dimensional model immediately appeared on the display, which was slowly and automatically rotating. After removing the belly and the power box on the back, the big iron armor. No, it should be called Viper 1 now, and it has finally become slimmer. Leo manually adjusted the model, reserving a place to install the tiny nuclear reactor. In order to pay tribute to Iron Man, Leo naturally put the energy source on his chest. But the miniature nuclear reactor is a black lump of iron, not as dazzling as the palladium arc reactor. But it doesn't matter, Leo is going to put a ray generator on his chest that can emit light. Half of the stone is placed in frost, and the other half is placed in the stone of flame, like a mandarin duck pot, divided into two. After working for a long time, Leo finally adjusted the drawings of the first generation of Viper. After getting the blueprint, Leo turned his attention to the big iron battle armor that had been eating dust in the corner for a long time. Leo cherishes time very much. Now the important materials have not been purchased, and the energy and control modules cannot be made. But he can actually manufacture the supporting mechanical skeleton of the first generation of Viper according to the drawings. This mechanical skeleton is actually relatively easy to make. After all, Leo already has experience in making large armors. The mechanical skeleton model of the Viper 1 generation is optimized from the initial skeleton of the bulky armor. As soon as he thought of it, Leo turned his attention to the big battle armor that had been eating ashes for a long time in the corner of the laboratory. As long as the armor is disassembled and the mechanical skeleton is restructured, the mechanical skeleton of the Viper 1 generation will be successfully produced soon. Ding ding bang. Bang 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 bang. Stab la la. Buzz buzz. Beside Leo, various parts and disassembled equipment fluttered for 2 hours, but the renovation work was not 10% complete. This speed makes Leo quite helpless. Although there are instruments to assist, some precision operations still need to be performed by him. And he only has 2 hands, so the efficiency can't be improved. After 2 hours of work, Leo was very tired. At this time, he had taken off his shirt and was sweating. Humans are not machines. After working for a long time, they need proper rest. Dissipating the surging mechanical force, Leo simply sat on the floor of the laboratory. At the same time, the various light tools floating around his body lost their mechanical force and fell to the ground with a clatter. Leo looked at the Viper 1 skeleton in front of him, and lay on his back on the floor, muttering, "If only I could be like Sun Monkey. It doesn't matter if I have 3 heads, but 6 arms are very important to me now." I hope everyone will support it and subscribe for more videos.